Are all the commissioners here? I see Gail.
No.
I see Stephanie. I don't see Chris or Bob yet.
Mr. Chair, Chris did let us know he may be a few minutes late to the meeting. So to start without him, he had a personal thing he needed to attend to, but he won't be too far past 4 o'clock.
Okay. So we're still waiting on Bob.
Trying to turn up the
Mr.
sound.
Delves.
Okay, I just heard from Commissioner Delves. He's having his computers, I guess, being lazy today. So it's taking a little bit extra time for him to log on, but he's in the process and he'll be here any moment.
Okay, we'll just wait for him to log on.
Great.
We'll call a meeting to order.
For anyone that just joined, we're just waiting a couple minutes for one more commissioner to join, and then we'll get the meeting started. So hang tight. You're in the right place. Just give us a couple minutes. Thanks. All right, Mr. Chair, looks like Commissioner Delves is here. And as I mentioned, Commissioner Bolton will be a little bit late. So if you'd like to, you can adjourn the meeting. We'll do a roll call for you.
Okay, so I will call the regular meeting of the Carmel-by-the-Sea Planning Commission for October 13th to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Here.
Chair LePage,
Here.
and I know Christopher Bolton will be late, so.
Okay, I'd like to welcome you all to our meeting today. First item on our agenda is the public appearances. So any members of the public at this time may address the Planning Commission on any matters of municipal concern. Items which they speak to will not be addressed today, and this is for items which are not on our agenda. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak to the Planning Commission at this time for items which are not on our agenda today? If you,
Yes, Commissioner LePage. This is Michael McWalters. If I may have
okay,
3 minutes,
Mr.
please.
McWalters, yes, you have the floor. You're calling in, right?
I am.
Okay, all right, very good.
Yesterday, thank you. Yesterday, when I heard Chip, our city administrator, this was from the strategic planning meeting yesterday. Chip said that our telecommunications ordinance, bear with me here. Yesterday, Chip said that our telecommunications ordinance had to be updated, and that sounded innocent enough. And then I came across a blueprint, quote unquote, of what he was talking about, and I'm not pleased about it. I've just forwarded to Brandon to distribute to you the Moraga staff report dated September the 8th, 2021. Please don't be put off by its 240 pages. If you just focus on the first 11 pages, you'll get the gist. Very disappointing. This report is authored by Denise Benzano, the assistant town attorney, who is employed by Burke, Williams, and Sorensen. Our own city attorney, Brian Pierrick, is also employed by Burke, Williams, and Sorensen. And you might say, so what? Except that this report could not have been written better by Verizon's own attorneys. And by the way, Moraga invited Verizon to help them write the ordinance. I'm not kidding. So I expect Brian Pierrick to author a similar document. So in conclusion, I'm headed out soon to walk my loop. I go north on Scenic, east on Ocean, south on Carmelo to Santa Lucia. And the 5G antennas that Verizon wants to put up have to be spaced no more than 500 feet apart. So I'll confirm it after my walk. But right now, pre-walk, I'm guessing 7 antennas on Carmelo, 7 on San Antonio, 7 on Camino Real, 7 on Casanova, 7 on Monteverde, 7 on Dolores, at least 7 on San Carlos. 7 times 7, 49. 49 Verizon antennas in the golden rectangle. Won't be golden for long. Trouble is, if we let Verizon in, then we have to let AT&T in with their antennas, and we have to let Sprint in with their antennas, and we also have to let T-Mobile in with their antennas. No discrimination allowed. 49 antennas times 4 wireless companies equals 196 antennas in the golden rectangle. Forgive me, 196 antennas in the golden rectangle. Whoa. So I hope that our name doesn't go from Carmel-by-the-Sea to cell towers by the sea. But we have to get ahead of this. We have to push back. There are cities, I can think of Mill Valley, that they don't have any cell towers. They don't have any of these 5G antennas. So there are locales that we can use for role models to keep these antennas out of Carmel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McWalters. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission on matters which are not on our agenda this evening? I don't see any hands going up.
Just as a reminder, if I can, Mr. Chair, for everyone, if you're attending via the computer tonight, at the bottom of your screen, there's a tab called Reactions. If you click on that, there's a button where you can raise your hand. That's on the computer. If you're on your phone, *9, whether it's mobile or landline, *9 will raise your hand. And if you want to unmute yourself, if you can't get the hand raising to work, just go ahead and unmute yourself. Bottom left-hand corner of the screen, there's a microphone icon. Click on that to unmute. Or if you're on your phone, *6 will unmute you. While I was killing time there, Mr. Chair, you know what? I did actually see one name unmute themselves, Mary Hallman Smith.
Hi.
Okay, you have the floor, Mrs. Smith.
I submitted a letter today for public comment, and I may have misunderstood the assignment because I didn't realize that it was not just for matters that were not on today's agenda. I was writing in support of the proposal to pre-approve the bench locations, and I'd be happy to share my letter with you if that wouldn't be redundant.
Not at this time. Let's wait until that's so we get to that agenda item. But I appreciate you letting me know that you wrote the letter, and we will address that when we get to that agenda item. This is for matters which are just not on our agenda today. So thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding civic matters which are not on our agenda today?
Mr. Chair, I don't see any on my end.
Okay, I don't either. Okay. All right, so we will move on to the consent agenda. Okay, items on the consent agenda are routine in nature and do not require discussion or independent actions. Any item may be requested to be pulled for further discussion by the public or commissioners. One motion may be used to adopt all the recommended actions. So we have 4 items on the consent agenda today. Item number 1 are the Planning Commission minutes from the September 8th, 2021 regular meeting. Item number 2 are the minutes for the September Planning Commission 29-21 special meeting. Item number 3 is the Community Planning and Building monthly report for September 2021. And item number 4 is consideration of a use permit, UP 308. This is the Zocolate Garden for the establishment of a new specialty food store located adjacent to the courtyard of the Derling building on the south side of Ocean Avenue between Dolores Street and Lincoln Street in the Central Commercial Zoning District. So those are the 4 items on the consent agenda. Would any members of the public or would any commissioners like any of these items pulled for further discussions, or do they have any questions about any of these items? Commissioners, I'll ask for your actions first. I see everybody shaking their head no. Members of the public, any members of the public, would you like any of these items pulled for discussion, or if you have any questions regarding any of these items? I don't see any hands going up. I don't hear anybody speaking. Okay, that's the case. Can we have a motion to accept all the items on the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we've had a motion to approve the complete consent agenda as presented in our agenda today. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman. Commissioner Lehman, you're muted.
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes.
Thank
The
you.
motion is carried. Okay, the next item on our agenda today are orders of business. The first is consideration of 13 new pre-approved locations for potential bench dedications along the Scenic Road pedestrian path. Can we have the staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to confirm, you guys are seeing this full screen?
Yes, we're seeing it.
Yeah, excellent, thank you. All right, Brandon Swanston, Community Planning and Building Department, here before you, consideration of pre-approved locations for benches. This is where benches will be dedicated along Scenic Road pedestrian path.
Actually, Brandon, it looks like you've got
Brandon, you have a presenter view on.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I wasn't sure because I got the two screens. I wasn't sure which one was which. There we go. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide here. Okay, so on July 14th, the Planning Commission did review some individual bench applications and provided direction to staff to return to consider the entire pathway at once and designate pre-approved spots along the scenic pathway. Planning staff, the entire planning staff, myself and the two planners walked the path, did a survey, and picked out spots that we thought were appropriate based on existing benches already, trying to group them together so we're not putting benches in already open areas. We did coordinate with Public Works to ensure there'd be no impacts to utilities. If any of the locations that are pre-approved tonight by the Planning Commission would then just be approved simply at the staff level when someone were to apply for them. So this would streamline the process for any of these locations that are pre-approved by the Planning Commission. So I've got some maps for you, and I want to give a little shout out to Evan Court, who did a fantastic job. We were walking along the pathway. He was dropping GPS pins as we went along and was able to map this for us and put together an excellent presentation. So I will take zero credit for how great this looks. This is all for Evan. So we're going to go through the red dots are existing locations and the blue dots are proposed locations. Currently, we have 37 existing benches along the approximately 1.5 mile of walk path, and staff is proposing 13 new locations. This is a neat little map here for you. It's called a heat map. You can see where the existing benches are and the proposed benches are the blue dots. As the color gets darker, closer to yellow, that's where we have the most intensity of benches. So you can see what we're doing is we're proposing to drop the blue dots closest to where the concentrations are already. There are 3 predominant styles of benches along the pathway. You have a backless redwood bench, the most simple, a redwood bench with a backrest that has stone columns and piers. And then you have a half log, typically mounted on some sort of stone column or a rock, an individual rock. So the concept here is that as we go through each location, the type of bench would also be predetermined based on the bench styles that are closest to that location, so that we're not having a mishmash of bench types down along the ocean. So the Planning Commission did do a tour of inspection. We're starting here from 8th Avenue, moving south along the scenic pathway. So these are site 1 and 2. The recommended style would be style 3. And let's go back really quick to recall style 3 is our half log style. So this would be a recommended style 3. Just down the way a little bit, this would be proposed 3 and 4, still in proximity, close proximity to where 8th meets the scenic. These are recommended style 2 for bench proposed area number 3. You can see the reason is proximity to this style of bench. So we would propose the same style right here. And then proposed area number 4, just down the way a bit, it would be style number 1, so that it's consistent with this backless redwood bench here. The next region we're looking at is between 10th and 11th Avenue. You can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 benches in this location. This is spread across a distance. This isn't all in one area, but we're taking these chunk by chunk. So this is benches 5, 6, and 7. These are all recommended to be style 3. Again, that's the half sawn log. That we do have some in proximity there. Position number 8 and 9, we have style 3 in position 8 and style 3 in position 9. Once again, you can see the half sawn logs. This actually, I believe, was meant to be style 1 because of the flat bench. It could work in either one, as this is a log. You know what, and I take that back. Forget what I said. This is meant to be style 3 because that is actually a half sawn log. The last section that we're talking about is south of 12th Avenue. There's a couple of clusters there. Position number 10 would be style number 1. Same as here, position number 11. You can see the redwood bench with the columns. Position 12 could be style 1 or 2, and position 13 could be style 1 or 2. These are the last two. They're the farthest south that staff was providing a recommendation on. There are styles 1 or 2 in proximity, so it could go either way. And the way this would work is that when someone comes in to apply, we would present them the available locations along with the styles of benches that they would be permitted to build there. So people would have a choice. So with that, staff's recommendation is to approve 13 new locations for potential bench dedications along the Scenic Road pedestrian path, including the bench styles as presented. With that, staff will conclude the presentation and I am available for questions.
Are there questions for Brandon regarding his report from the commissioners?
No.
It seems like all the commissioners are shaking their head no.
Mr. Chair, we should note for the record, it looks like Commissioner Bolton has joined us.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Yes. Kind of. You got lost in the squares. Okay. For the record, yes, Commissioner Bolton is present. All right. Did you have any questions for staff, Commissioner Bolton? Okay.
No, thanks. And I was on the tour, so I saw the locations.
Great. Okay. All right. I will open it up to the public for their comments. I believe Ms. Smith wanted to make a comment at this time. Ms. Smith, would you like to make your comments?
Sure, thank you. If it wouldn't be redundant, do you mind if I just read my letter? It would take about 1 minute.
You have 3 minutes to handle it any way you'd like.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mary Holman Smith. My family has a home on Scenic Road in Carmel-by-the-Sea that we've owned for more than 30 years. It was my late father's happy place and continues to be that for the rest of us. I was in a baby bed when he bought the house, as his grandchildren are now, and every year of my life has been enhanced by time spent here in this beautiful town. I'm speaking today in support of the proposal to streamline the bench application process by pre-approving the 13 locations along the scenic walking path and delegating responsibility for approval or denial of applications to city staff. From an administrative efficiency standpoint, this proposal seems both logical and appropriate. As a Scenic Road homeowner, I appreciate the city's foresight in both selecting and limiting the locations of future benches. And as a bench applicant myself, I appreciate the proposed simplification of this process. I submitted our family's application in June and eagerly await a decision whether that comes from city staff or from this commission. When we left Carmel at the end of the summer in 2020, my father knew that he was dying and that he was saying goodbye to his favorite place in the world. As you can tell, it was heartbreaking. After our family, Carmel was the great love of his life. Having a bench on the scenic walking path dedicated to him, particularly one that's in close proximity to our home and the accessible parking spots, given that he was a polio survivor, would be the most meaningful way we could honor him. Thank you for your consideration of this proposal that prioritizes efficiency and advanced planning. Thank you for your consideration of our bench application. And thank you for everything you've done as a commission and staff to make and keep Carmel such a wonderful place.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Smith. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission on this proposal? I don't see any hands going up, and I don't hear anybody.
Mr. Chair, I do see one hand. Rob Carver's raising his actual hand.
Oh, he's raising his actual.
This is my actual hand.
He's trying to confuse me.
Bill Hallman was a
Go
very
ahead.
okay. Bill Hallman was a very dear friend of mine, and we were the architects to restore that wonderful house on Scenic, the 3-story former Clancy mansion. And so I would thoroughly support any efforts by the Hallman family to have a bench as stated by Mary in that location.
Okay, thank you, Rob. All right, is there anyone else who would like to address the Planning Commission from the public regarding this proposal? I don't see any actual or artificial hands going up. And nobody seems to be chiming in, so I'm going to close the public comments. Open it up to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Dells, would you like to kick this off, or you want to pass?
No, I'd be happy to. I thought excellent work by staff on identifying the 13 locations. I think they were all just really in the right spots. And I really appreciate that you factored in sort of pods of density while there are still significant stretches of the sidewalk that have no benches. And I like that. I'm supportive of all 13 locations. We did identify location number 10, which is right at the sharp turn there. Is that 13th or Santa Lucia? I forget. It is perhaps the most dangerous spot on Scenic, just because you've got cars navigating a right angle to the right and then another one to the left, and a lot of pedestrians taking shortcuts, and there's just a fair bit of congestion in there. I think a bench in there is fine, but I think we all acknowledge that it might want to move a little bit in there, dependent on also future plans for landscaping and vegetation in there. So I think we can approve those and just give staff the, I don't know if it's even a condition, but the suggestion that before you put a bench in there, make sure it's sort of master planned a little bit better. And we also then, after number 13, went and looked at the potential for another 2 more or maybe 3 more, 14, 15, and 16, just continuing on. At that point, you're probably heading west. And I know I'm supportive of 3 more in there. So adding 14, 15, and 16. At the risk of sounding insensitive, I do wonder, do we have any policy, Brandon, on length of dedication? I dealt with this in a different community that decided that they would actually limit a dedication. I think in the end it was 20 years, with the family of or with the original donor having an option to renew in perpetuity. But the reality of what was happening there was families would move on and forget about the bench. There are always more people that want to dedicate a bench. And this may just be too complicated to him to ask, but I'm just curious if we have any policy there.
Thank you. That's a good question, and through the chair. So, we don't have a time limit on it. Our bench policy, which I believe I attached to the staff report, does not have a time limitation on it. The practice has been, because we collect maintenance fees on the benches to make sure that they can be maintained, obviously. So if the maintenance fees go away, presumably because someone has left the area or is no longer interested in having that dedicated, then we can remove the plaque and it becomes an option for somebody to rededicate. So we do handle it that way. We do not have a time limitation though on it.
I think that's actually a better answer. That answers my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that a yearly fee, Brandon?
It is, that's correct.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Lehman, would you like to make some comments?
Certainly. I really appreciated having the walk today so we could get out in the air a little bit before we sit inside for another 4 or 5 hours or more. I like the work that the director and Evan did on putting this together and putting the map together. It was easy to see because we had all had the opportunity online to have seen the drawings, and I think it's great. When I first thought about adding 13 or 15, whatever, more benches, I thought, oh, this is going to feel like too many benches, but after walking it, I feel very comfortable with it. So I'm all in favor.
Thank you, Commissioner Lehman. Commissioner Locke, would you like to make some comments?
Yes, briefly. So I agree with all of the previous comments. I also agree with Commissioner Delves' comment that we did identify at least 3 sites just to the southwest of number 13 that I think should be included as well. And then we probably won't have to deal with this again for hopefully a while. And I'm also kind of curious, and here's a question for you, Brandon. The Planning Commission is involved in the approval of the benches, but yet beach and forest is beach. So is there a reason that the Planning Commission gets involved in this situation? And then just before you respond to that, the other comment I want to make is I like the idea of designating what type of bench is going to go in that area. I think the continuity is important, and I think that was an excellent suggestion by staff, and appreciate that very much.
Yeah, so your first question is a good one. I guess the simplest answer is that's what the policy says. So we do have an adopted bench dedication policy, and it's older, so it could be that, you know, when it was set up, it was determined the Planning Commission would be the one. So
yeah. I mean, I could understand design review, which I think, you know, we have kind of taken that under our wing, but it does seem to me at this point, especially if we're adopting this continuity of styles, that maybe this is something we should look at in the future as something that should be dealt with at the Beach and Forest Commission and not necessarily at our level.
Well, I think Commissioner Locke, you make a really good point. I think at the very least, it would be good to report out at the next Forest and Beach Commission and let them know, so there's some continuity between the 2 units.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Commissioner Bolton, would you like to make your comments at this time?
Yeah, sure. I don't really have anything to add other than I agree. I think there is space for 3 more to the south, and all the other comments are great. I also think it's a good idea to loop in Forest and Beach, if nothing else. And I think it's great that we're doing this in advance instead of one at a time. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Yeah, I'm in agreement with all the comments from my fellow commissioners. My only concern about the request or the idea of the additional benches is that if we're going to make a motion to include that, I think we should make it contingent upon checking with Public Works to make sure there's no utility issues and so forth, because that was part of the planning work that the staff has already done. I think that was an important part of it too. So with that said, would one of the commissioners like to make a motion regarding this pre-approved sites?
Sure, I can do that. I'd like to propose a motion for the pre-approved locations for the potential bench dedications along the Scenic Road pedestrian pathway.
Okay, did you want to include any language with the additional spots southwest?
Oh, sure, certainly. Although this says the consideration of 13 pre-approved, an addition of 3 more dependent upon Public Works approval between south of 13th Avenue. Or is it starting at 13th Avenue? I'm not quite sure where we were at that point.
They were south of 13th, yes.
South of 13th, yes. That's it.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. I just have a question for the director. Are there any other issues which we should include in this motion regarding those additional sites, or do you see any issues there which we're not considering?
No, Mr. Chair, I think you're okay. I don't know if I heard in the motion to continue the same sort of protocol with matching bench styles or not. But that's how we plan on implementing it. So we'll carry that through regardless.
Yeah, Gail, I think you'd agree with that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we can include that.
Yeah, so that'll be included in the motion that the additional three benches will be follow the same protocol for bench design and shall be contingent upon approval by Public Works. Is everybody agreeing with that motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes, motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda under orders of business is consideration of amendment to the Planning Commission's adopted rules of procedure related to the tour of inspection. Can we have staff's report, please?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. This will be, I don't have a long presentation, no PowerPoint or anything, just a quick recap. So we did meet last Planning Commission to talk about some modifications to your rules of procedure, specifically with respect to the tour of inspection and whether or not every item that's on the agenda needs to be toured. The genesis of this was from a few meetings ago where the Planning Commission asked staff to look at modifications so that we can streamline the process in general, because the Planning Commission has been doing good work in getting multiple, more items on their agenda. So in an effort to try to keep these meetings from going till 9 or 10 o'clock at night, we're trying to find ways to streamline, including using our consent agenda, which we've been doing. And so what this would do is create some criteria for items like use permits or second viewings of a property after doing a preliminary review, where they don't need to have a site tour again. So I'm going to pop up the language. There was last time the recommendation from the Planning Commission, they wanted to see some language about if something wanted to be added. So I'll show you that language specifically, but if something needed to be added at the request of a planning commissioner that we didn't initially put on, how we would do that. So let me show you that. And then I did receive an email from one of the commissioners making a couple of suggestions, which I'll highlight in yellow. We can talk through that. Commissioner Lehman can explain that, but I want to make sure I tee that up for her. So let me share my screen right here. And again, just like before, these are your rules of procedure. Once you decide on them, we don't have to go to City Council. They're effective immediately. This was a self-initiated task from the Planning Commission to itself. So I just want to share that with you. So all the language is basically the same as before. The big change sort of coming back at the request of the Planning Commission is this last section here. If you can see, it starts with if any. It says if any planning commissioner wishes to include an agenda item that has been exempted from the tour, they will contact the director within 48 hours of the hearing to make the request. A special note here, so the commission asked me to look into the Brown Act. This would allow us to comply with the Brown Act. So it does still fall under the Brown Act because the tour of inspection is part of the hearing. Typically, a regular meeting has to have the agenda out within 72 hours. A special meeting has to have an agenda out within 24 hours. So to give extra time in case you received a contact from a constituent, or after rereading the staff report, you wanted to really make sure we got there. As long as I know within 48 hours, then I can get the agenda out within 24 hours, which is what's the requirement for a special meeting. So if something were to be added by the commission to the tour after the fact, it would technically be a special meeting. It would happen at the same time. It would be seamless for everybody else. Just for Brown Act purposes, we would call it a special meeting, but it would happen at the same time. So we can get as close as we can get is 48 hours. So within 48 hours, any commissioner could add something to the tour. So that's the big change from last time. I do want to just scroll down and highlight a couple of things. They were good suggestions, but it's up to the entire commission. Highlighted in yellow here, you can see a thorough review and discussion of topic matter, including public comment, will take place at City Hall. The suggestion there was during the meeting, which makes more sense because now that we're in virtual times, we're actually not meeting at City Hall. So it's just a little cleanup item. This, again, is a little cleanup item considered in a 2, and I'm not sure why this is a typo, 2 and 1.5 hour meeting. I think that adds up to 3 hours, actually. But 2 and 1.5 hour meeting, just a change to considered during the meeting. Again, just for however long the meeting goes. So those will be, I would ask that the commission deliberate on those changes as well. Again, these are your rules. We don't have to go to the city council. We did properly notice this. We didn't even have to notice it. But we did notice it, let people know it was in the agenda report. So you're totally within your rights to make decisions on these last 2 items as well. Even though they weren't necessarily part of our last discussion, because these are your rules. And so with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to the commission to discuss. And if they'd like to see any other changes, I can do it here real time.
Are there any questions for Brandon regarding the staff report on this?
I would just like to add one thing on page 7 under N. It says adjournment. The Planning Commission will adjourn no later than 8 p.m. Excuse me, unless by a majority vote the commission elects to continue. And of course, that was what flagged my reason for saying that about the 1 and 1.5 hour, because that wouldn't even take us to 8 p.m. So that was my rationale. And the reason I said that this should take place at City Hall was, I'm sorry, I just lost that. A thorough review and discussion of the topic matter, including public comment, will take place at City Hall. I wanted to make sure it was during the meeting so people didn't think we were standing outside City Hall when we reach the point where we get back to City Hall, having a supplemental or off the book, so to speak, meeting. And that's why I wanted to clarify that. So.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lehman.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for staff? Okay, I'm going to open this up for public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to make some comments to the Planning Commission regarding this? I can't see my screen.
Mr. Chair, it looks like we have no one raising their hand. No one has unmuted at this point. So I think you're in the clear.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna close the public comments and open it up to the commissioners for any comments they may have. Commissioner Bolton, you wanna start out on this?
Yeah, but I don't have much to say. I think this is an improvement. I didn't think of the thing that Gail just said about the City Hall, being during the meeting, or whatever, but that's great. Yeah, I don't really have anything on this. I think it's improvement.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. Commissioner Dells?
I have nothing to add. I'm supportive.
Okay, Commissioner Locke?
Yeah, I'm supportive as well, including the changes that are shown in the yellow highlights.
Okay, and Commissioner Lehman, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'm fine now. Thank you.
Okay, I don't really have anything to add too. I wasn't at that meeting when this was requested, but I read this over, and it seems to me that it provides the opportunity for streamlining, and it also is more explicit about some of our procedures, which maintains our Brown Act credibility. So that's something we always have to be careful of. So I was it was kind of interesting to hear about the special meeting, that you can have a special meeting occurring with a regular meeting. That's something that I wasn't aware of, but
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if anyone really wants to geek out on it, you can read a whole book on the Brown Act. But every state has its own Fair Meeting Act or Public Meeting Act. Ours is called the Ralph M. Brown Act, but they all have different names. And if you recall, we actually did, when we did a joint meeting of the Historic Resources Board and the Planning Commission, one of those was a special meeting, right? Because it was out of cycle. So yeah, it's another mechanism for at least making sure the public's aware and also keeping government moving at as quick of a pace as it can move.
Right. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. So having said my comments, do we have a motion? Was there a resolution provided with this, or we just need a simple motion?
No, we don't need a resolution for this one, Mr. Chair.
So we don't. So
just a motion and a vote will be fine.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll try it. I move to approve the changes to, what is this document called, Brandon?
It's called the Planning Commission Rules of Procedure.
To that document regarding the tour of inspection as outlined in this red line proposal from Brandon to include the two additional items that were highlighted in yellow in this presentation from Brandon.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the changed language as presented in the document from staff. Is that clear enough?
Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes, okay, the
Thank you.
motion is passed. All right, thank you. Okay, so that concludes the orders of business on our agenda. The next item on our agenda are the public hearings. Before we start the public hearings, I just kind of want to lay out the rules of order. Applicants will be allowed 5 minutes to make their initial presentation. They will be granted 3 minutes rebuttal time. The general public will and other speakers will be allowed 3 minutes. So the first item on the public hearings tonight is a design study. This is DS 21-068, the Gardone Project's consideration of a combined concept and final design study, an associated coastal development permit for a 59 square foot addition to an existing single family residence, construction of a new 249 square foot detached garage located in the front setback, and site improvements including reconstruction of a deck at the rear of the residence, new driveway, new walkways, and various landscape improvements located on Carpenter Street, 2 southwest of 4th in the R1 zone. Can you have staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So the subject property is a 4,000 square foot lot. The existing residence is 1,151 square feet. It also has a 301 square foot attached garage, which is proposed to be converted to living space as part of the project. A 59 square foot addition is also proposed, as well as the construction of a 249 square foot detached garage. I apologize, I should say detached, not attached. Additional project components include new building finishes, landscaping, and site coverage improvements. There is one moderately significant oak tree on site, located at the southwest corner. It is away from all development and should not be impacted. There is, however, a significant Monterey pine located on the neighboring property to the north. The forester has reviewed the project and has recommended the inclusion of condition of approval 27 and 28 in order to protect that tree. The standard tree protection conditions have also been included as condition of approval number 12, and there's also condition of approval number 29 that requires the applicant plant 3 upper canopy trees on site. So staff has not identified any privacy or view impacts associated with the project. The addition maintains the existing roof height, and windows are proposed to be replaced throughout. However, they're generally the same size and location. In terms of mass and bulk, the addition to the residence does not increase the mass significantly and is compatible with the site as well as the adjacent properties. Staff is recommending that the garage be lowered by 1.5 feet to what is currently proposed. You saw on site there was orange netting as well as blue netting. I apologize, I don't have the exact condition of approval in front of me. Condition number 30 has been included. That requires the garage be dropped down 1.5 feet in order to keep the garage in scale with the residents and surrounding properties. Detached garages do require the following findings be adopted. So number 1, that the garage is not wider than 12 feet in width, 250 square feet, and does not exceed 15 feet in height. So the project or the garage does meet that standard as proposed. However, condition of approval number 30 will drop that height down a little bit more. The right of way, at least 50% of the right of way will be landscaped. The setback encroachment would not impact significant trees. Again, the forestry department has included condition of approval number 12, 27, and 28 regarding tree protection. The protection of free and safe movement of pedestrians is maintained. So staff has included condition of approval number 35 that requires a new window be placed on the north elevation of the garage in the approximate location of the gate. The applicant did provide some additional correspondence earlier this week stating they do not feel this is necessary. The commission did have the opportunity to review that. So please take that into consideration during your discussion as to the window addition on the north side of the garage is necessary to protect free and safe movement of pedestrians as well as vehicles. And then standard number 5, that all development on site will be in scale with adjacent properties. And again, the garage will be decreased in height approximately 1.5 feet as outlined in condition of approval number 30. So the addition maintains the simple building form. The roof is pitched at 3 and 12 throughout, and that is proposed to be maintained for both the addition and the garage. And then a correction to the staff report. The staff report noted that all existing skylights were proposed to be replaced. However, 2 dome skylights are existing and proposed to remain. So condition of approval number 14 that refers to the skylight shade would only apply to the newly installed skylight and not the existing dome skylights that are proposed to remain in their existing location and configuration. So the building will be refinished with stucco throughout with a composite board and batten element. It'll have a composition shingle roof and painted a fossil, which is an off-white color with a dark engine trim. Aluminum clad windows are proposed throughout. And then the new deck at the rear will either be a wood siding or a composite, a wood material or a composite material. Both have been proposed. Staff has no objection to either. A pavered driveway as well as stone walkways. The applicant is also proposing the inclusion of a aluminum not wood gate located between the residence and the garage. The design guidelines primarily address gates and fences when located at the street edge or within the front setback. As the proposed gate is not located at the edge of the street or within the setback and is about 22 feet 6 inches from the front property line, staff is supportive of the proposed material. However, the commission can always require a natural wood gate as typical. And then the applicant is also proposing a single wall style of wall sconce. No landscape lighting is proposed. In respect to lighting, we do have one residential design guideline that speaks to lighting styles. It states using lights only where needed for safety and outdoor activity areas, such as building entries, gates, terraces, patios, not using lighting to accent buildings or vegetation, using low output bulbs, pointing lights downward to reduce glare, and shielding fixtures to avoid glare and excess lighting from neighboring properties. So those are our design guideline standards, and then there's also standards that speak to lighting output, which is in the building code. So because this light fixture does meet the residential design guidelines, as well as the standards in the building code, staff is supportive of the proposed fixture. We also have a condition of approval that requires the metal ring be maintained permanently so that the light is directed downward and does not shine outward. So staff's recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving a combined concept and final design study and an associated coastal development permit. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions for staff from the commissioners?
I have a question, Chair.
Mr. Gels?
So My question is about the window on the garage. Is there a rendering of where that window would be?
No. That was added basically as the staff report was being written, and as we were doing making the final findings. The way the condition is written is, let me flip to it really quickly.
And while you're looking for that, perhaps we should just ask the applicant, because we already know, because we met out there, that he's got some pretty sophisticated renderings, and perhaps could show us more specifically where that window would go if we continue to ask for it.
And so the condition is written: a window shall be added to the north elevation of the garage and located between the gate and the fence, or the gate/fence and property line, to provide a view of Carpenter Street, to provide additional visibility to oncoming traffic. So that would be generally within this corner. It is likely that this fence right here would have to be pulled back a little bit, but the idea is that it would be in this vicinity. So the driver, when the car is parked, can look out the window this way to Carpenter. That was the intent of the condition.
Is that all your questions, Commissioner Dels?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Evan, I had one question. With the lowering of the garage by 1'6", what's the plate height? Do you have that, or is that something the applicant?
Yeah, no, that's actually, I believe, included in the conditions.
It says here.
It would be 8'6".
Okay, 8 foot. Yeah, I see that, 8'6". Okay, that's with the lower. That's with the lower elevation.
Yes. So.
Okay.
Yeah, everything was dropped 1 foot 6 inches. So both the ridge and the plate.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Are there any other questions from the commissioners for Evan? Commissioner Lehman, you have your hand up. Need to unmute. Did you have a question, Commissioner Lehman?
I'm looking at what we have on our screens right now, Evan, and I noticed that you're showing the lights on the drawing, the exterior lights surrounding the garage door, where they're all black, with just a little bit of see-through showing at the, at the very top of the fixture. And I'm seeing 2 fixtures. And then I'm looking at the photograph, which must be the renderings, and they're showing those as clear lights. And then above it, I'm seeing this really large, maybe 4 or 5 foot wide sign that gives the house a name and a location. And it seems disproportionate to what we've ever seen. And I'm curious as to why the lights show black on the drawings and why they're clear on the garage, on the renderings.
Yes, I'm trying to pull up my laser pointer. I just want to make sure I'm addressing the sections you're referring about. So you're talking about these lights?
I'm talking about the lights on the face of the garage door.
Oh, these?
Yes.
I'm not sure. My understanding.
Well, they're not on the door. I'm sorry, adjacent to the door, to the left and right of the garage door.
So Evan, I think Commissioner Lyman's talking about
not the window lights, the light fixtures.
The light fixtures, sorry.
Understood.
Yes.
I'm not sure why those are darker. That might be a question best answered by the architect who is on the call, the owner and architect. It might just be how how it's displayed to try to differentiate between the light fixture and the building wall. However, if we look at the proposed fixture, it would be glass, clear glass.
It's clear glass.
Clear glass, correct. I'll defer to the architect, but my assumption it would be just to differentiate the fixture from the building wall.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions from the commission for staff? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Evan. And at this time, I'll call upon the applicant to make their presentation to the commission.
Very good. Hopefully my audio is working.
We can hear you.
And if I can share screen, I'll try to address the questions as we go through and use this if this comes up full screen for you.
Mr. Chair, while the applicant's pulling that up, you would like 5 minutes for the applicant, correct?
Correct. The applicant will have 5 minutes for his initial presentation.
Okay. I'll keep that running on the side since the applicant will be sharing their screen. I'll let you know.
So I am attempting to share screen right now. Is it not?
Yeah, we can see. Yeah, no, we can see your screen.
Very good. All right. So thank you for the time, and I certainly appreciate staff and commission taking the time to come see this personally. For my wife, Mary, and I am Dale Garden, and my wife, Mary Garden, have been working on this since October of last year, so almost a year. This is the existing property that you got to see today with the story poles now in place. This is a full 3D model rendering, trying to give the best depiction we can possibly for the board and batten areas that Evan referred to. Window in this location to a new bedroom. Windows in this location at the upper part will be darker tinted so that we don't have visual into the garage. These lights do have a back plate, so yes, they're clear glass, but they do have a black back plate. So that's why you were seeing the graphics in 2D showing some of that gray in that location. We hope that this will be considered exemplary, at least for 4,000 square foot lots, and trying to accommodate the needs of a garage like this and for additional living space. The side view here is where the fence is, and I'll try to show. This is, whoops, I'll go back one. This is kind of the approach shot where we've got a bus stop here. We've got the low fence. The window would have to be put into this location. We do actually have trees in here that have low lying branches currently on adjacent properties, so we don't have a lot of visibility further back. We feel confident that we have visibility out the front. I'll show you another graphic that I submitted earlier this week regarding that. The house itself, again, we think is designed and trying to be sensitive to the two-story neighbor that we have on one side, and the one-story neighbor on the second side. This is the gate in question that leads into our courtyard. These are the adjacent panels. And we are just, the extension of the kitchen is about a 6-foot extension to allow us greater indoor-outdoor livability at this front courtyard, and using the garage as kind of a buffer to carpenter, and then open up the inside to the outside better and maintain our side yards the same as they've been today. And with, actually, I'll go back, our back deck will remain pretty much as it is today for the livability indoors and out on the backside. And this shows kind of a view from the future interior to the outdoors that we are proposing on the kitchen addition, and that's just kind of our general living space. So with that, we hope that we are contributing to the neighborhood. We hope that our choices in Halloween decorations don't offend anybody, but we're trying to be good neighbors and hope that we can share our new design with the neighborhood. I will show you the second graphic and conclude this portion. But that side view would be a window right in this location, and it'd have to be placed. So the other graphic that I had sent earlier this week is just trying to show that when the car is pulled out beyond the face of a garage, we have full visibility of oncoming traffic, and we have 9 feet to curb, 13 foot to a lane. And the view from the other direction is seen this way, where the lane is actually here. This is additional asphalt, And this is our car well beyond the face of the proposed garage, having full visibility of this oncoming traffic. Our reasons for not wanting the window just simply involve not wanting to see or have public view of our car when we're home, when we're not home, or the contents of our garage. So we consider it a security privacy topic and would prefer that long as we have full visibility as demonstrated by your visit today and the images, we would like not to have that stipulation of the window. We are in agreement with all other 33 conditions of approval, including the lowering of the height. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Garden. Are there any questions for Mr. Garden from the commission?
No.
Okay. Would members of the public like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application at this time? You'll have 3 minutes to make your comments or ask questions. Did you put your hand up, Brandon?
No, sorry, I had an itch on my face, sir. I'm not seeing any hands being raised.
Okay.
Mr. Garden does have 1 minute left if he needs to rebut anything. But
All right, so the commissioners don't have any questions at this time? Okay, Mr. Garden, do you want to make any additional comments?
No, we just thoroughly appreciate the time and energy being put in by staff and Evan's efforts on our behalf, and even coming in this week or today when he was otherwise off this week. So we appreciate all that and Brandon's guidance as well.
Okay. All right, so with no other members of the public weighing in, I'll close the public comments, open it up to the commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Locke, would you like to begin with your comments?
Sure. I think this is actually a really neat project. I drive by this house every single day off 4th. And I appreciate the comments that all of the neighbors submitted. So obviously you've been in touch with everybody and nobody had any issues with your proposal. Loved the detail on the renderings that you provided when we were on site today. I personally think that given the information that has been given by Mr. Garden regarding the backing up, I don't believe a window is necessary in this garage. I think there is sufficient space once a car is out of that garage to not be in the roadway and still see what's going on. I would not want to live on Carpenter because of the amount of traffic that goes. So nobody's going to back out quickly. Anybody who's there knows that they need to be extra cautious. And but it does appear that he's got a fairly large car and he has room to back out and then be able to see what's going on up and down the street. As far as the gate and the proposed aluminum, was very interesting to see on site. It is 22 feet from the property line, and I don't have any problem with that. I think that's an interesting material, and I don't have a problem with that. And yeah, I guess those are my comments on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Bolton, would you like to make comments at this time?
Yeah, I think the staff report was excellent. I could go either way on this window. I could see how it might be useful. I could also see people putting a shade in that window. So I'm not really sure the window is, everything. I do think you could probably see okay as long as you're super careful backing up. I don't really love the garage right where it is onto Carpenter, but I understand the situation and I don't think there's really a good alternative. So I support this project. I think it's a good one.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Commissioner Delves?
Yeah, lovely project, Mr. Garden. That's really an upgrade to that house and the neighborhood, and just really well done. On the window in the garage, I guess I would say it this way. I'm a little conflicted. I think if it was my own house, I probably would put the window there and have a push button automated shade on it. And it's more because I know and trust my own ability to back my car out of that garage. I don't necessarily trust my sons or my grandsons to do the same. And it would just make me feel safer. I'm going to be supportive of whatever motion comes forward. I won't make the motion. whether the window is included or not. Great project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dels. Commissioner Lehman?
Yes, thank you. I was just looking through the special conditions, and first I want to congratulate Evan. I think getting the height of that garage lowered made all the difference to this project, because that's all you see. And I do use Carpenter as an exit out of town a lot, and whenever I'm going north or going back to the south. And I have been noticing the story poles, and knew this was coming up. So I think the house it will be lovely. I think it will be very livable. I really don't like the fact that we are being forced to approve so many garages in the front yard setback. I think they are a little scary. I don't think we can do anything about it since we've gone so far with it right now, but it is something to look at in the future. I certainly will support the motion to approve this. The only thing that I have concerns with are the exterior lights, and the sign on the front of the house was, if that was just a play with a rendering or was serious. But I really think all signs that are on houses all over town are very small. They're low, usually on the front fence or the gate, or down on the, on a lower part of the house. So I would be concerned with anything. I guess the word is discreet that I'm looking for. I think that's a lot of what Old Carmel is about, and the place that makes us all want to live here and bring so many people here is the fact that nothing is overblown and in your face, so to speak. So that sign really does bother me, Mr. Garden. I think the house will be lovely, as I said, and very livable. I don't think the window is going to be utilized, and so I would not make it a condition of approval. But I think lowering that garage was just brilliant, Evan, and I really appreciate that. So that's about all I've got. I did want to, bring up one more thing. We do have Title 24, and we have to comply with that, and that goes to the building end of building and planning. But I recently learned that we have never applied for dark sky in Carmel. And I'd like to encourage the staff to bring us back a report on an application for a dark sky. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lehman. I had a question for the applicant regarding those fixtures. So do those fixtures, they shine the light out through that clear glass?
No, the illumination is way up in the high canopy, and we're actually adding an additional ring below. So it already shines down from a source hidden in the top, and we're going to add a ring to even make the cone even more focused downward.
So it's a downlight orientation.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, all right.
Brandon also had his hand up, I think.
Yeah, Brandon, Director?
Yeah, if I could, thank you. Just a couple of things, if I can go back and respond to a couple of Commissioner Lehman's comments. So if you recall, talking about the sign first, if you recall, this commission did just make a recommendation to the City Council on a sign ordinance, and the City Council has taken a first reading of that. Looking at that ordinance, which we just went through, the requirement for the residential signs is no larger than, no larger than 1 square foot. So any signs proposed, you have to meet those regulations. So I think Commissioner Lehman, that might take care of some of your concerns there. So we'll hold any of those signs to that standard. I apologize. And then to the question or the comment about Title 24, that's the state's energy efficiency law that talks about the type of bulbs that are used in energy efficiency. But I'm very much in support of exploring applying for a dark sky designation. So what that is you have to apply to the state, you adopt certain regulations, which we can actually do under Title 15, which is where our lighting regulations are. So we wouldn't have to go through an LCP amendment. We don't have to have the Coastal Commission do anything. We can adopt Title 15. We could bring it through the Planning Commission first and then go to the City Council. It doesn't technically have to go to the Planning Commission because it's not a land use title, but I would probably bring it through the Planning Commission just because we've had this conversation. It would make more sense to do that if we were going to try to go for dark sky regulations. And for anyone not familiar with that, it basically sets standards that we as staff can use and the Planning Commission can use as well about the type of fixtures. Interestingly enough, my reading of the dark sky regulations and how they meet this light fixture we just looked at, as long as the light bulb was contained within some sort of shroud, having the glass enclosure around it would be okay. It's just that the bulb directly wouldn't be visible into the night sky. So I can bring back a report either next month or the following month, depending on availability, to talk about what the night sky designation is, what it does for the city, what it would require from us, and what those regulations might look like. So if the commission would like that, I would ask for direction from the full commission as part of your motion, or just we don't really need a motion for that, but just if I get sort of a straw poll on that, I can take direction as part of this item. That's fine, as long as it's multiple commissioners want to see that come back.
Shouldn't we do that at the end of the meeting?
That's fine too. Yeah.
I think we'll take that up at the end of the meeting.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I'll bring it back up.
Okay.
If we don't see that.
And for the purposes of this application, it's been clarified that this is a downlight, and so I think this is consistent with the type of fixtures which we have been approving and requiring for our with our past approvals. Okay. I don't have a lot to add. I'm very impressed by this design. I think obviously the applicant has a lot of skill and professionalism. Those are some of the nicest renderings I think I've ever seen. And I think the design is really simple. It takes kind of a simple structure and just adds a few interesting design elements to it, but they're very clean and simple, and just kind of brings out the best of the house. And I think staff did a great job of reviewing it. I'm obviously supportive of the lower plate height for the garage. I think it has less mass from the street, and I don't really see the necessity for that additional window. I think the applicant has demonstrated that he has an opportunity to look north for the car gets in the street. So, having said that, we have a resolution.
Mr. Chair, while you're pulling that up, I'm sorry, I need to clarify myself. I shouldn't have relied on my memory. There's too much going on. It's actually 2 square feet for the sign ordinance, so it's not 1 square feet. So it's 1 by 2 or anything that adds up to 2 square feet. But still, even at that, I think that would control the size of that sign that we saw above the garage door.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, so the resolution for approval by staff of a concept and final has a standard conditions, and then the special conditions, I'll just go over them quickly. Number 27 is excavation within the structural root zone. 28 is garage excavation and foundation. 29 is tree planting. 30 is the garage height for the reduction to the 8'6" plate height. 31 is gravel, removal of gravel from the site. 32 is right-of-way encroachments. 33 is the wall sconce, which shall be have a shielded bulb. And 34, landscape inspection. 35 is garage window to be added to the north elevation. We may want to consider removing that in the resolution. So that is the resolution. Do we have a motion regarding this resolution from the commission? Commissioner Locke, would you like to make that motion?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to make a motion. I would move that we approve, sorry, I've got to get back to my other one, that we adopt the resolution approving bind concept and final design study DS 21-068 garden an associated coastal development permit for a 59 square foot addition to the single family residence, construction of a new 2,249 square foot, detached garage located in the front setback and site improvements, including the reconstruction of the deck at the rear of the residence, new driveway, new walkways, and various landscape improvements on Carpenter 2, southwest of 4th in the single family district. And that we delete from the resolution condition number 35, which required a window on the north side of the garage. And that I think that actually would probably cover everything we just talked about. So I guess that is the conclusion of my.
Okay, we have a motion to accept staff's resolution for approval of concept and final, with the deletion of special condition number 35, the window on the north side of the garage. Do we have a second to that motion?
Sure. I'll
Second that.
No. Whoever.
So that was, we'll take Commissioner Bolton. You did second that, didn't you, Commissioner Bolton?
I certainly did.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Commissioner Lehman, for your efforts too. All right. So as I stated, we have a resolution for approval for concept and final as presented by staff, with the deletion of special condition number 35. Is there any more discussion regarding this application? Hearing none, can we have roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the public hearings tonight is another design study. It's DS 21-250. This is the Krugler application. This is also consideration of a combined concept and final design. Sorry, my printer has, and a coastal development permit for a 201 square foot addition to an existing single family residence, construction of a new 200 square foot detached garage to replace an existing parking pad, and site improvements, including new walkways, various landscaping improvements located on Crespi, 9th southwest of Mountain View Avenue, and it's in the beach overlay architectural significance and the overlay park. It's in the single family residential zone. Can we have staff report, please?
Thank you. So this lot is also a 4,000 square foot property. It's developed with an existing 1,599 square foot residence. 1,399 square feet is of the actual building, and then there's also a 200 square foot parking pad that is already included in floor area. The applicant is proposing a 201 square foot addition to the residence, as well as converting the 200 square foot parking pad to a detached garage located in the front setback. Additional project components include landscaping and site coverage. So there is one moderately significant oak tree located at the northwest corner of the site. Forestry Department has included condition of approval number 12, which are the standard tree protection requirements, and also recommended condition of approval number 26, which requires planting 2 upper canopy trees on site. Staff has not identified any privacy or views associated with the project. The windows are proposed to be replaced throughout. However, the new windows are generally located in the same location and are the same size. The deck is proposed to be expanded slightly and will occupy the full width of the building. However, there is a new screen wall, 6 foot tall screen wall proposed for the north side of the deck. And then the southern end of the deck will be brought out an additional 3 feet. However, there is no increased privacy impact. So the addition does relate to the mass of the homes nearby. The existing structure and proposed modifications are partially visible from the Mission Trail Nature Preserve. However, the portions of the building visible from the park will exhibit a human scale and residential character through the use of simple building forms and natural materials that will not detract from the enjoyment of the park or open space by the public. as required by Municipal Code Section 17.20.110, which is a finding required for the park overlay. Again, we have our 5 standards for allowing a garage setback encroachment. The proposed garage does meet the 5 standards. We received a correspondence this morning that was shared with the planning commissioners from the neighbor to the south, Mr. Kovac. He's suggesting a window be added to the elevation to help break up the garage to make it seem a little more residential and less like a box. However, staff was able to check in with the building official this morning regarding the feasibility of adding a window to the south elevation. And because of the proximity to the property line, adding a window in this location actually would not be feasible, just because of the fire rating that it would have to meet. So if an additional treatment to the garage is required, at least to the south elevation, something other than a window should be considered. So the building maintains its L-shaped form. The existing 4 and 12 roof pitch is proposed to remain for the additions as well as the garage. And then the finished materials will match the existing site conditions with a wood siding. The roof will be re-roofed throughout with a new shingle roof. The wood will be painted a chopsticks color, which is a beige with a pure white trim, and then there's also a stone veneer that's proposed. 3 style of light fixtures are proposed, 2 for the building and then 1 landscape lighting. All the fixtures do comply with our residential design guidelines as well as our lighting standards. And then the new walkways throughout will be a flagstone, sandset flagstone. So staff's recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving a combined concept and final design study and associated coastal development permit. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for staff from the commissioners? I see 2 commissioners shaking their head no. Commissioner Lehman is recused from this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay, I don't know if we stated that at the beginning of the presentation or not.
Michael, I do have a question.
We do? Okay, Commissioner Locke?
So is this is one of those properties that has a shared driveway, so to speak? So the driveway is essentially the property line, is that right?
The property line would be, I apologize, I forgot to attach the plans at the end of the project, but or the presentation. The property line would be right in here.
Right, so there's no space on the south side of the garage.
I believe the garage is, it might show on the site plan.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of space. However, within 3 feet of the property line, there couldn't be any window openings.
No, I'm thinking more of vegetation, some kind of planting that might provide kind of a break to the wall area.
I don't have that dimensioned, but I don't know if there would be enough room.
Okay, well that might be rather than doing a window in this case, there might be a way to break up that wall with some kind of vegetation.
Evan
thank you.
Excuse me, Commissioner Locke, are you through with your questions? Okay, Evan, was there any thing that was precluding the garage from being shifted to the north a little bit more?
Nothing in the zoning code. I would advise against it. That came to mind as well. I think moving the garage to the north would then block the building entry, and then the focal point would be the garage instead of kind of this little. To me, the sense of entry would be lost right here if you pulled the garage to the north.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, thank you. Are there no other questions for staff? Okay, thank you, Evan. Appreciate your presentation. Okay, would the applicant like to make their presentation this time? The applicant will have 5 minutes to make their initial presentation.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Claudio Ortiz. I'm representing Eric and Erica Krugler on this project. Thank you, Evan, for the presentation. I think he went over practically every item, and I can address them a little bit further and go over the garage. But I don't want to go over everything Evan mentioned, but the project is very simple and overall, it's just a small addition to the rear, redoing the deck in the back, in addition to the front for an entry, and we're matching all the existing materials and keeping everything in keeping with the traditional materials that are allowed in Carmel. I think the most delicate area in the entire project is the garage, and I did meet with Michael, the neighbor to the south. He does have some concerns about the aesthetics of the garage, and we talked a couple of times about the, proposing something to soften that look. Evan is correct. One of his thoughts was to add a window, but the code does not allow us to do any windows within 3 feet of a property line. So that concept is pretty much not feasible the way the project is designed. The alternative that I came up with was to propose 2 fixed shutters that would imitate or duplicate a window. And Michael wasn't too keen on that concept, but it's probably the best idea that I can come up with at the moment. So the idea was to propose 2 shutters fixed on that elevation, and then propose some sort of landscaping on the bottom, some small hedge that can grow and soften that look. I think that was brought up earlier. So that's something that we can definitely look into a little bit further. The way I would love to approach this is hopefully if we can get an approval is to make a condition that I would work with staff and Michael, the neighbor to the south, come back with some renditions, submit them to staff, and see if we can get that approved at a staff level without going back to the planning commission again for that minor alteration. Other than that, the other item that I would like to add to this project is something that my clients just brought up recently, but it's to change the windows from double hung to casements. It will be exactly the same window, just the function of it will change to from a double hung to a casement window. And pretty much, I think that's the overall scope of the project. So I'll be more than happy to answer any questions and, address this issue with the garage, and hopefully we can come up with a solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudio. Are there any questions for Claudio from the commission? Commissioner Bolton.
Good evening. What is the amount of space between the property line and the side of that garage? Is there room to plant anything?
Yeah, there's very little room. The property line is skewed on that side.
It looks like it.
So the rear portion of the garage is roughly about 8 inches away from the property line, where the front portion of the garage is about 12 inches from the property line. So there's not much room to propose anything in there. So, and that's why I would like to explore that idea a little bit further to see if we can come up with a concept to plant something, because I think that will soften that elevation quite a bit. With the shutters on top of that, I think it will really help. Again, I know Michael wasn't too thrilled about that concept, but because I think he's fixed on the concept of proposing a window, but that's just based on what we have here. I just can't bend the codes on that, and that's not going to be allowed. I don't know if Michael's attending this hearing, and maybe he can shed some light on that idea as well. But him and I did talk quite a bit on that.
I was just thinking if you could plant something, maybe, climbing roses, whatever, on the side of that wall, it would really help to soften it. So could you move the garage, enough to get something planted there? I don't know how much room you need, right, to actually get something planted there. I don't really know what the conditions are enough. I don't know if you have to put something in like a planter box or something. I don't know the reality of trying to get something to grow in that location, because that might be difficult, but that's the best solution I can think of for trying to soften that, is something green, something alive. Although I like the shutter idea is better than nothing.
Right.
So I was just curious. Okay, thank you for your help. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any other questions for Claudio from the commission? Don't see anybody raising their hand. Okay, all right. Would the public like to address the planning commission regarding this application? You'll have 3 minutes for your presentations or your comments.
Yes, I would. Can you hear me?
We can.
Hello?
Would you identify who it is, who you are? And
Michael Kovac. And
okay,
I'm the
Mr.
neighbor
Kovac,
to
you
the
have 3
south.
minutes to make your comments.
Okay. I guess my question is the code for the window. And again, if it's only facing a driveway and some cars, is the restriction for privacy, or what is the restriction in the code?
You want to answer that, Brandon?
Yeah, it's a fire code. It's
Well, Claudio, we got. I think the chair wants staff to
Yeah,
answer.
let staff answer that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but Claudio's right. It's a fire code. The issue is having a window that near to a property line. Let's say there was a fire in the house or in the structure. The window would have to be fire rated, which means it's going to have to be, a really heavy, thick, essentially bulletproof glass, so that the fire doesn't easily leave the building and jump over the next site. So it's just one of those building code things.
Okay. But looking at the site, it's not jumping anywhere except to a driveway. That's what I don't get, And again, I'm not an architect, but that's what I'm viewing.
Can I address that a little bit further, or should I?
No, let Mr. Kovac finish his comments. I want to let him, unless he has a question for you, Claudio. Do you have a question for Claudio, Mr. Kovac?
No, I would like to soften the south side and that south side. The shutters.
How do you feel about the shutters? Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
It's a good start. I think we need some greenery so it looks something different than a big box on a piece of land. That's my objection. The rest of the structure and what he's going to do, I think it's going to definitely improve the property. I've lived next door to this for 37 years, so it's going to be an improvement. My only objection is what I'm going to look at the south side of that garage. And I'm done with my comments.
Okay, Mr. Kovac, I would give you additional time if you wanted because of the interruptions, but I think it sounds like you're making your concerns pretty clear about the garage. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't need to drag it on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? Okay, I don't see anybody.
Sure, yeah, I'm not seeing anyone from my side. If it's okay with you, Mr. Chair, before you take it back to the commission, I do have a potential suggestion from staff perspective about a condition, unless the commission has
Thank you.
questions.
No, go ahead.
So one thing we could do, I think, sort of riffing off of what Commissioner Bolton brought up, either shifting the garage over just a little bit to create room for some sort of planting. So the commission could include a condition that there must be some sort of planting installed on that south side of the garage. Make the condition nebulous enough that it would be Claudio working with staff, the homeowner working with staff, at the approval of the director, some solution to get some sort of vegetation on that side of the garage, not having to come back to the planning commission. And I think we can handle that at the staff level. Whether that requires moving the garage over 6 to 12 inches or not, that's up to the designer. I think if you gave us leave to call that substantial conformance with your approval, whether it stays as proposed or scoots over 6 to 12 inches, I would feel comfortable with that from the planning director perspective. But that would be an option for you as the commission if you wanted to create a condition along those lines.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. All right, is there anyone else from the public who would like to make any comments to the commission regarding this application? Claudio, go ahead, you have additional time.
Yeah, thank you. I do agree with that concept. The only thing I would like to say is that I would like to have the flexibility to look at various options and not just moving the structure. Like Evan mentioned earlier today, there is a constraint with moving the garage over that will suffocate the view and the access to the dwelling, and it will create just a very imposing scenario in the entry of the house. So again, I'm not opposed to moving the garage over. I just want to have the flexibility to view that as an option and not the only option to resolve this concept with the landscaping. Thank you.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you. All right, I don't see anybody else has any comments here. So I'm going to close the public hearing and open it up to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Dells, would you like to begin?
Sure. I think all aspects of this application are very satisfactory. It's again, I think a needed upgrade to a property that's getting a little tired, and the replacement is much better. The only item I think of discussion is the garage, and I am open to Brandon's suggestion, and you know, it's one of those I'm not normally, and normally I would say let's come back for a final, because I want to make sure that we find an answer for Mr. Kovac, because I think he deserves one. I think that garage side, the south side, does need to be softened. And that said, I would be supportive of a conceptual and final approval with the condition that an acceptable mitigation on the south side of the garage be found.
Does that conclude your comments, Commissioner Dills?
It does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bolton, would you like to make your comments?
Yeah, sure. Again, I think the staff did a great job on this one, and I think that this is a fairly simple project. It's a big upgrade. The only thing I had any concern about was the garage, and I made those comments, and I think Brandon's solution is fine. Otherwise, I also would want this to come back for a final. So if we don't have language that's strong enough to include the possibility of moving the structure, I'm not going to support it. I'd want it to come back for final. But I think we don't have to necessarily move it. So if staff can work with the designer to figure this out, that'd be great. But I would really prefer greenery, not just some kind of, you know, whatever, half timbering or something silly. It's going to end up just looking contrived potentially. I do like the idea of a false window with shutter. That would be okay. Anyway, but that's it. I think it's a good project.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Commissioner Locke, your comments?
I have nothing more to add. I agree with what was just said. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the garage definitely has some impacts on the neighbor, and I think it needs to be softened. I know from my own experience, I've used espaliered plants in narrow setbacks like this. I know that ornamental pear is a very successful one. It's evergreen, and it can be easily espaliered, and it actually is a pretty vigorous grower. So I don't know what the requirement is exactly for the setback, but I agree with Commissioner Bolton that I think any motion we make should include language for the possibility of gaining whatever necessary setback is required there to provide, you know, a greenery to soften that side of the garage. And I am open also to the director's suggestion with a motion that this be handled at the staff level. So with that said, Commissioner Bolton, would you like to make a motion to?
Mr. Chair, if I could, just because this is, I understand and I appreciate the commission's trust in staff. I've actually been feverishly typing condition language while you've been deliberating.
Okay.
So if I could just have 1 minute, I can put it up on the screen, and then we can make sure that it's what we all agree on, because I think that's really important in these kind of situations. I mean, I trust myself and I trust my staff to do a good job, but I just want to make sure that the commission and the public are aware of what the condition languages we'll be adding.
That's good. Then I'll make a motion.
right, if everyone can see that, I'll read it. This was very fast. I'm certainly open to any additional language. Prior to issuance of a building permit, the property owner will submit revised plans for review and approval by the Director of Planning and Building, which include landscaping on the south side of the garage that grows or climbs at least halfway up the southern facing wall. If the garage needs to be moved up to 12 inches north to allow for installation of landscaping, this will be considered in substantial conformance with the approved plans. The landscaping will be maintained in good health for the life of the project.
Nicely done, Brandon.
When you say halfway, what does that mean? Is that initially, or does that put a limitation on it?
The intention there, perhaps, I can refine that language. The intention there is that I always think when writing conditions, what would, not to imply that this owner would do this, but this is how you write conditions is the spirit of the language or how it's actually written. If you just say landscaping, it could be, 1 inch tall, and that doesn't really solve the problem that we're trying to solve. So the halfway up is intended to at least soften a portion of the building.
It's considered to be the intent is to be a minimum.
A minimum, yeah. So I can
okay,
add,
not a maximum height. Okay, all right, thank you.
I'm at least halfway up. Okay, yeah, at least halfway. Yep, I did have that in there.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, I would ask, just as we do typically with our conditions, that we make sure that the applicant is okay with these conditions, or at least doesn't have any major concerns with them.
Okay, Claudia, what's your comments regarding this condition language?
Oh, Claudio, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. So I don't have an issue with that language. The only concern that I have is that we have to meet, does the landscaping have to grow exactly halfway up? I mean, is there a...
No, it just needs, the way this is written is that the landscaping will be on the south side of the garage that grows or climbs at least halfway up the southern facing wall. So no less than halfway.
Which is a 4 foot tall plant.
A plant, or I mean, you could certainly take care of this with a bougainvillea that's going to attach. You could attach little hooks to the side of building, grow vines up the side. There's a lot of solutions you can come up with, and that's why I put the language in here. You and I can work together. This would need to be approved by me or one of my staff. With my staff is empowered with the powers of the director when reviewing projects as well. So just someone here in the department would need to sign off on it.
Okay, I'm sure we can make that work, and I'm open to exploring those options and making this a softer elevation for the client. So I'm good with it.
Okay, thank you. And of course, there will be an opportunity for the neighbor to be included in this discussion and final decision. Okay, having said that, Commissioner Bolton, would you like to pick up where we left off with this resolution? And I did look at the resolution as per staff for approval of concept and final. At the special conditions just are regarding tree planting, right-of-way encroachments, and landscape inspections. So if you want to include the language as per the director, that would be special condition number 29.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I move we approve DS 21-250 Krugler. That's Crespi Avenue 9 southeast of Mountain View. As noted in the resolution and including the special conditions of the resolution and including the new special condition number 29 as written by staff regarding the planting area along the side of the garage.
Okay, we have a second?
I second.
Commissioner Delves has seconded that. Okay, we have a motion to accept the resolution for concept and final as presented by staff with the addition of a special condition number 29 that as presented by the director. So is there any more discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, the resolution is passed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, it's still pretty early, so I think we can keep going here on the public hearing agenda. So, excuse me, I've got a little printer problem here. I got to go over to my to the website. The printer's cutting out part of the line. Okay, so we just finished item number 8. So the next item on our agenda is item number 9. This is design review. It's DR 21-141 and a use permit, UP 21-226. This is referred to as a conservatory, although it is the known as the China Arts Building on Dolores. So this is a consideration of a design review and use permit application for a remodel and structural seismic retrofit of an historic 5,857 square foot structure. The addition of a 311 square foot interior balcony, staircase, elevator, and elevator mechanical room, basement addition, the repair of a leaky roof, installation of new solar panel array, and the addition of a new electrical HVAC, plumbing, acoustic infrastructure, as well as a new skylight and exterior windows to the China Arts Building located on Dolores Street, 2 northwest of 7th Avenue. And this is in the Central Commercial Zoning District and the Downtown Conservation District and overlay. Can we have staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So the subject property is a 4,000 square foot lot located on Dolores, 2 northwest of 7th and in Downtown Conservation District. The subject building is known as the China Arts Center and is listed on the Carmel inventory of historic resources. The project was reviewed by the Historic Resources Board at the August 16th HRB hearing. And the HRB adopted resolution 2021-7-HRB, finding the project consistent with the Secretary's standards subject to the recommended conditions of approval. Those conditions of approval have been included as conditions 13 through 17 of this project. So the building is proposed to be remodeled and retrofitted to accommodate a new music recording studio. The city does not currently maintain a specific land use classification of a recording studio. However, Municipal Code Section 1714.030 and 1768.020 both allow the director to make a determination as to the inclusion or exclusion of a particular proposed use in a particular category according to the characteristics of the use, the director's interpretation of the land use code, and the NICE use code or use category list. So the director has determined that this use could be classified as a live performance theater, as live music performance is proposed as part of the primary function of the use. This use is permitted in the CC, or Central Commercial Zoning District, with the issuance of a conditional use permit. However, different from a live performance theater, there'd be no live shows or performances open to the public. This would be just private events and private recording sessions. Staff does not anticipate any noise impacts associated with the proposed use, as well as how the project is conditioned. The applicant is proposing structural improvements throughout the building to soundproof the structure, such as construction of a new interior perimeter wall around the building, the addition of a new sound lock at the building entry, as well as the layout of the floor plan itself, which prevents sound buildup at particular frequencies in particular locations within a room. So you can see the walls on the floor plan. None of them are at 90-degree angles. That is intentional, and it's not a misprint in the plans. That is intentional to help address the quality of sound that's produced as part of the use. So while noise impacts are not anticipated due to the measures taken to soundproof the structure, staff has still included condition of approval number 18, 22, and 23 that address land use as well as potential noise impacts associated with the business. The applicant is proposing a seismic retrofit and predominantly interior remodel of the building with some exterior modifications. The proposed project does not change or alter the setbacks or building coverage, as the scope of work is located within the existing building footprint. An increase in height is proposed only for the new elevator and stairway access to the roof. And the existing interior floor area will be reorganized and and expanded. However, there's no net increase in floor area. In respect to the roof, the maximum building height in the central commercial zoning district is 30 feet. The new rooftop elevator and stairway additions would sit below the gable fronting Dolores Street and would be 37 feet 4 inches tall and 33 feet 10 inches tall respectively. So they would exceed the maximum height limitations. However, Municipal Code Section 1714-150B state that small areas not exceeding 10% of the proposed building coverage and occupied by special design features such as towers, steeples, and ornamentation may exceed these heights if approved by the Planning Commission. Together, the two features would only be 7% of the total building coverage, so it does comply with the standard. And the applicant is requesting the Planning Commission approve the new roof projections as a means to provide access to the roof of the building. And staff is supportive of this request. The maximum allowable floor area for the site in the central commercial zoning district is 135%. The existing structure is non-conforming as it has a existing floor area of 172%. Modifications are proposed to the interior space and the floor area would be reorganized to accommodate the new use. However, there is no net increase in floor area proposed. The basement level will be expanded by approximately 1,000 square feet to accommodate a storage space for the building. However, pursuant to Municipal Code Section 1714-140, underground areas used for non-commercial floor area are excluded, underground areas used for non-commercial storage are excluded from floor area, as are mechanical equipment rooms that service the building on any level. Of the reorganized floor area, the only exterior change visible from the street would be the entry glazing addition, which is located within the existing entry recess and is already captured within the building coverage for the site. The proposed new glazing system will be placed in the large arch opening to create the necessary sound barrier associated with the use. The historic wood gates would be retained but pinned in the open position to conform to egress requirements, and the new glazing feature will be comprised of a glass curtain wall with glass mullions held together by spider fittings to allow for unobstructed views into the historic entry, which is similar to the entry of the Sunset Center. So the proposed design inserts new openings into the solid concrete rear elevation with two new windows facing the south at the rear of the building. The openings will be steel casement windows of a different pane system than the historic windows, and staff is supportive of these new windows as proposed. The proposed rooftop elevator shaft structure on the southern side of the building will be visible from 7th Avenue. However, the bulk and massing of this feature is in scale with the surrounding rooftop projections and appear appropriate as viewed from the street. The new rooftop additions will accommodate access to the roof, which is proposed to be used as an informal gathering area, as well as used for accessing the mechanical equipment associated with the building. The municipal code and commercial design guidelines are silent on roof decks in the commercial district. And it is also staff's understanding that there's a residential use adjacent to the subject property. Excuse me. The proposed commercial use is only permitted to operate within the enclosed building with no activity occurring on the roof. Aside from accessing the mechanical area, the roof would provide incidental access to the owner. The applicant has positioned the elevator shaft enclosure to screen the roof deck from the residential unit to the south and has provided a railing that prevents access to the southern 8.5 feet of the roof at the southwest corner to create additional separation between the roof and that residential unit. Specific to the rooftop, staff has included condition of approval 19 and 24 that speak to the inclusion of that railing, as well as noise associated with the activity of the roof. A new skylight is also proposed. However, the skylight would not be visible from the street or any adjacent properties. The commercial design guidelines primarily focus on facade design and provide limited guidance regarding the proposed changes, as the existing facade is remaining intact with no real structural modifications proposed to the primary building facade. The design guidelines do speak to preservation of design elements and new modifications achieving compatibility with the old, and deviations from the design guidelines should be related to good design principles and site conditions. The design guidelines do state that large sheets of glass unbroken by divisions appear too urban or modern and should be avoided. However, the proposal was reviewed by the city's historic consultant as well as the HRB that included mullions in the new entry glass. The mullions were found to obscure the existing historic building entry, and it was recommended the mullions be removed. While the inclusion of mullions in the existing or in the proposed entry would be more traditional, the removal of the mullions preserve the historic building character and are therefore consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards. So in staff's opinion, this would be an acceptable deviation from the design guidelines. When plans for remodels are reviewed for approval, the reviewing body must find the following to be true. So those are the standards under 1714-220A. And the staff report outlined those specific findings and found them all to be made in the affirmative. Likewise, there are 2 sets of use permit findings. Those findings were outlined in the staff report, and all of them were made in the affirmative. So staff's recommendation is the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving a design review and use permit. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do the commissioners have any questions for staff?
No, I don't, not at this time.
I got one.
Commissioner Bolton, yeah, I thought I saw your hand.
Sure. So there's no anything in the code about rooftop decks in the commercial?
No, not
okay.
It's completely silent.
All right, just be perfectly clear. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff and the commissioners? Okay, thank you, Evan. Okay, would the applicant like they make their presentation to the commission?
Yes, good evening, commissioners. I can keep this brief. My name is Robert Carver, and our team at Studio Carver, including Daniel Peterson here, are been the lead on this project, are the architects for the Conservancy. Staff report and the presentation has covered all the important points. Basically, regarding the use permit, when my client first came to us wanting a recording studio downtown Carmel, my concern was noise. And so we did hire one of the foremost acoustical engineers in the world who did the Disney Center in Concert Hall in Los Angeles and the Skywalker Ranch for George Lucas in Marin County. And he assured us that sound doesn't know which way it's going, and to have a recording studio, you have to keep the sound out. So in order to keep the sound out, by nature, you're also keeping the sound in. And so we don't expect to have any noise issues at all. And regarding design review, we have worked closely with Brandon and Evan and to fine tune our proposal that is before you today. We appreciate their creative suggestions. They had many, and as a result, the few minor exterior modifications that we are making will be less visible from 7th, and our entry will be more transparent from Dolores. And also, we will be increasing the privacy for our neighbors as cited by condition 24. And Evan, if you could put that slide up again, the roof, the one about the roof modifications. We have talked to all of our neighbors. We have the support of all of our neighbors. Some of them said they would be either speaking or writing in. I'm not sure if they have, but To the north, Dan and Shelley Lynch own that building, and they had the same concern as the neighbor to the south in terms of privacy for their rooftop deck. And so I assured Dan that we would address that, and I believe that's addressed by the structure of our stair, basically stair enclosure, and that will prevent anybody from peering over onto their deck, which is right about where it says utility mechanical on the slide. So I think that addresses that, and it's our hope that, oh, also, I noticed on condition 3 that it says that we only have 6 months to have a building permit issued. And I would ask that we would have 6 months to apply for the building permit, because I don't know how long it's going to take to get it issued. It's we have a lot of consultants, and I don't know if that's if you can change a standard condition or what, but it seems like a pretty short amount of time. I think we can make it, but the holidays and, the craziness in general, it just seems like, I don't know if there's any discretion on that number of 6 months to have a permit issued. And then, I think we've discussed number 24. So it's our hope that the commission and the city will support this project and applaud the huge investment that the owner is making in a somewhat neglected Carmel landmark. I think it'll be a benefit for what I think is my favorite block in town.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Are there any questions for the architect or his team from the commission?
Yes, I would like.
Commissioner Lehman?
Yes, I'd like to ask Rob a question. As we all know, in architecture and design, there's always another way to do it, an alternative. I'm very concerned about that vestibule being closed in. It is a historic building. It is in the conservation district. It is a wonderful block in the town, although there are many blocks that are wonderful in town. The same block from Ocean to 7th on Lincoln is equally gorgeous. But I think this is, there's got to be another way to do this without fencing in that vestibule. That vestibule is just beautiful. And closing it, chopping it in half like that or in a third, it seems to be almost sinful to me. So that's where I am right now. I think you've got an amazing space to work in. It's too bad someone didn't come forward and buy it as a museum or an art gallery or an exhibition space, so that it would be open to the public. But that's not the issue. The issue for me is not to destroy what is visible to the public. So thanks.
Okay, so your question was an alternative design. You're asking Rob about that. Do you want to respond to that, Rob?
Sure. The consultant that the city's historical consultant requested that our original design be modified to basically this solution. So we did do exactly what was asked of us, and I think that the Sunset Center is the solution that those architects came up with at the Sunset Center. I'm sure that was controversial when they first built it, and now I think everybody can appreciate what a great solution that was. And so I did some research on modern glass in historic structures in Europe. And of course, the pyramid at the Louvre comes to mind, and that was extremely controversial when it was constructed, and it is extremely popular and highly regarded as an elegant solution now. So we've done a lot of historic work. We were the architects on the restoration of the Poinsett Lighthouse and several historic homes in Carmel and Pacific Grove, and have won awards. So we're very sensitive to historic buildings. And the important thing about the entry is that it's attached from behind the main facade. So you can't see the point of attachment, and it can be removed. So if somebody buys this and they don't want to have the sound lock, they don't need the sound lock, it can be removed and there's no trace that it was ever there. So that's a really key part of any kind of historic rehabilitation. We're changing the use of the building, and we need to keep the sound out of the building, and we need to keep the sound in the building that's in the building. So it's part of the solution of doing that. It's not the whole solution. We also have to have sound doors inside, and it was the best solution we could come up with. And I think it's going to look great, frankly. It's going to be very transparent, and I think it'll add rather than detract from the building after you get used to it.
Rod, why couldn't the same solution be done once you're inside the building, to build a vestibule inside so you're not taking away from the public view?
Well, we don't feel we're taking away from the public view, first of all. Second of all, we will have to do more sound doors inside. We're not, that's, you know, the amount of work that we're doing inside, like every window has to have another window built inside of it. Every door has to have another door. All the doors are acoustic. The doors are extremely expensive. So we will have doors inside also.
Okay, I think we can continue this discussion in the comments. Thank you, Commissioner Lehman. Do any of the other commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Bolton?
Yeah, staff identified the potential for performance use, private performance. Can you speak to the intentions of their client for that particular use?
Well, we are limited to an occupancy of 49 people for the entire building. So we can never exceed 49 people. So there may be we can fit a full orchestra in the main hall. Now, I don't know how many people are in an orchestra. We're probably pushing it with that. And you know, if that was the case and we were exceeding 49, we'd probably have to get a special permit for that recording session. But it's not for public audiences. I think, you know, I don't think it's, you know, the intention is not to have it closed to the public. I think there may be times when a certain amount of public could come in and just see it because it's going to be magnificent, but it's going to be a working recording studio. And when it's that, it's not, it doesn't have an audience, and it's just, you know, sort of the people who come with the band or with the orchestra. And we certainly want to have, you know, to support the local, the Bach Festival and the symphony and the youth symphony and the jazz festival. And so we've been in touch with several of those groups, and it will be kind of on a space availability basis, but we're very much wanting this to be also an educational opportunity for, there is a recording program at CSUMB. So, you know, we have have reached out to all of these organizations, or almost all of them, and it's still, you know, we have a year or more probably under construction before we're really ready to get serious with bringing anybody in.
All right, well, thank you.
Do any of the other commissioners have any questions for Rob? Okay, thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone from the public who would like to make some comments to the Planning Commission regarding this application? I don't see any hands up. I don't see anybody who's waiting with a phone call either, so I'm assuming there's no comments from the public. Rob, did you want to make any additional comments, rebuttals, or any? I mean, it's pretty much, we pretty much.
No, I just have to say what a pleasant process it is going through the county versus going through, I'm sorry, going through the city versus going through Monterey County.
Revise it.
And I know. So I really appreciate it, really.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time. I know it's late and I'm ready to go. You still have more to go.
All right. Okay. All right. We got a hand up from this director.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. If you want to close public comment, then I just wanted to have a staff comment coming out of that. So.
Okay. I'm going to close the public comments. So staff why don't we start with staff's comments and we'll move on to the commissioners.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to clarify something. I think the condition or in the resolution about the time limit, we do need to change that. I looked through the code 17.52.170, which is time limits on approvals and denials relative to use permits. For a commercial design review, which this also includes, it's actually 18 months. So we would have an 18-month threshold on pulling the building permit versus the 6 months.
Thank you.
I'm sure the applicant appreciates that.
Yeah.
Okay, we will have the commission's discussion on this. Commissioner Locke, would you like to begin?
Sure. Well, first of all, I was extremely excited to actually see the building because it's been behind closed walls for all of the time I've lived in Carmel and beyond. And so it's just an amazing building. I think the proposed project is unique. It's going to be a great use of this building. The concrete walls definitely lend into the ability to maintain sound within the building. I agree somewhat with Gail's comments regarding the enclosure of that entryway. I would really love to be able to have people step in and experience what we experienced today without having it blocked by a sound barrier. And on the other hand, I also understand that there's a need for a sound barrier. My only concerns about the project have to do with the roof deck, but as we don't apparently have any kind of regulations that restrict or otherwise have any way to limit the use of a roof deck, especially when it's adjacent to a hotel, then I don't really think I have anything further to add on that. But no, I'm excited to see this project move forward, and it's just an amazingly beautiful building. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Delves?
Yeah, so echoing a lot of that, I think the whole concept here of a recording studio in downtown Carmel is it is beyond unique. It's bringing a new element to sort of the socioeconomic makeup of downtown Carmel. And this is a town that does not love to change fast. But I think this particular, I'll call it an advancement, should be welcome. I just think it's as music moves increasingly digital, for our town to have a facility like this to participate, in that advancement of music, I think is a really extraordinary opportunity. And I appreciate very much the owner coming forward with this use, and the outcome of this building being seismically retrofitted to start, and then to be given a new life like this, I think is an opportunity we have to say yes to. Gail, I hear your concern on the front door. I do. But what was interesting is when you and I met out front there today, you pulled me across the street because you said, you got to look at this thing from across the street. And you were right. To really understand the grandeur of that vestibule, it is better appreciated from that distance. And I don't think the glass vestibule enclosure, whatever we're going to call it, will change that. And it might even enhance it a little bit, and then it will draw the eye perhaps to it even more. The pictures of the Sunset Center were helpful for me to to understand the before and after. And I did have to agree that the after was even an improvement. And I think the same thing can be achieved here. Rooftop deck. Yeah, I think the others have said it. There's no prohibition. And I think we do have conditions in here about uses and limitations on uses. So I am supportive of this project as proposed and of the use permit as proposed.
Thank you, Commissioner Delves. Commissioner Lehman, would you like to make your comments?
Well, I think I've already been there. You know, I cannot approve it with that vestibule chopped in half. I think there is a way. I appreciate the fact that we are going to have a recording studio in town. I think that's great, but I don't think that's up to us. I don't think that's what's important. I think it's the design of the building that's important. And I feel like there is a way to do that on the inside. I have been in many, many high-rise buildings in my life. And I did a lot of work in a lot of high-rise buildings in Los Angeles. And there are many buildings that have interior enclosures that are sound efficient. So I know this can be done without chopping that vestibule in half. When you look at Sunset Center now, all you see is, and I am a modernist, you know, I love modern architecture. I love contemporary architecture. But when I see Sunset Center, I look at a contemporary building because the glass is so overwhelming, the entry is so overwhelming. But it would be a shame to do this to this building that has so much handwork in it to have created it. And that in itself is a wonderful addition to this conservation district. And I think we're ignoring that. And you know, I saw that the vote on historic review was split 3-2. It was not a unanimous vote of approval for this thing to be taken out of a historic concept. And I cannot support it. I'm hearing what the rest of you are saying, and you know, it's okay to disagree. But I think we really are kind of bastardizing that building. And you know, I don't want the responsibility for that. You know, I have to speak out against this. So that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Lehman. Commissioner Bolton, your comments?
Sure. First of all, I think I'm very excited about the use. I think it's going to be extremely interesting. I think it's going to be a welcome addition to the city. I don't have any issue with the new window additions. I can't make real comments about the rooftop deck, but I think we do have some controls on it. I'm supportive of the project. I'm not thrilled with the entry vestibule glass. I don't really think it's great. I'd like to see it I'd like to see an interior solution as well. But I also don't think it completely destroys the building. I think the fact that we're preserving such an important building is wonderful. And the seismic retrofit is critical. And I think on the balance, I have to just support the whole project as it stands. I would request perhaps further looking into a interior solution, but if the rest of the Planning Commission can support the exterior as provided by the architect, I can support as well. That's about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Yeah, this building is a real anchor of that conservation district there. It just, the scale of it and the detail just really give it a prominent place on that street. And I think I'm really excited about the use permit. I think having this, you know, world-class recording studio in Carmel brings a whole another level of art involvement that we just don't really have an opportunity to do. And I'm just amazed at the scale of this project and the kind of money that's being invested in it. It's really a commitment by the owner. I really respect that, what they're bringing to the community. I understand Commissioner Lehman's concern about that. I mean, that's obviously our primary focus in terms of the historicity of the building and changing it. I understand that it's removable. It's made out of glass, so it has a minimal impact. The applicant's not proposing to remove any of the architectural details. They're not proposing to hide any of them. But it is something which is visually going to be added. I think I would like to, I'm kind of in agreement with Commissioner Bolton and Commissioner Lehman. I'm kind of in agreement that maybe there's another way to do this. I mean, I was interested to hear what the architect had to say, and he didn't really say that there wasn't. He just said this is what was approved. And obviously, a lot of time and energy went into that solution. But you know, this is such a key building there. I don't want to throw up a huge obstacle here because I really am supportive of this overall concept. But it just seems to me like there's an opportunity here to do this in a different way. They could do this on the interior, like Commissioner Lehman is saying. I mean, I didn't hear the architect say that it can't be done. So I think I'm kind of leaning that way, that I'd like to see, you know, another option presented on this they're calling a sound block. So that's where I am on the thing. I mean, we've got I looked at the resolution. I can pull that up. There's a lot of, I mean, they've got the standard conditions. I think the architect's concern about the time was addressed by the director, so that doesn't seem to be an issue on the standard conditions. Special conditions, there's quite a few of them. 13 is a decorative plaster repair, 14 wood repair, 15 a treatment and cleaning repairs. I mean, these are all intended to maintain the material that's there, protect it, make repairs and replacements that are consistent with what's there. 16 is the sound lock entry design. The glazing system shall be revised to include fewer glass panels, thinner steel framing elements to make the glazing system as transparent as possible. A detail should be provided to the planning and building for review and approval prior to issuance of the building permit. And then we have this 17 is sound lock entry detail, a detail of the glazing systems that includes type, opacity of glass, width of framing elements, methods, connections. This seems like more of a continuation of 16. 18 is noise. This has to do with preventing the noise coming in or out. 19, music within the areas. This is about our 55 decibel requirement. 20 is rooftop equipment. 21 is the fire service equipment as required. 22, prohibited uses, concerts, live performances. We talked about that a little bit. 23, maximum occupancy, which was stated by the architect at 49. And 24 is a roof access, which has to do with the elevator door. So that's the resolution for approval as presented by staff. One of the commissioners, Commissioner Lehman, you have your hand up. You want to comment there?
Right. I'm wondering if I could get support to continue this to next month and let the architect go back to the owner or the sound people and see if there is a way to create this sound block from the inside to the outside without touching the vestibule.
I'd second that, Gail.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to continue this application to a date certain, which would be a next meeting. Are we required to do that, Director?
Yeah, we would just want to say a motion to continue to November 10th.
To November 10th to give the architect, the applicant, an opportunity to provide an alternate sound block as per the direction from the commission, which is basically to explore the option of doing that inside the building rather in the, I'm calling it the vestibule. I don't know if that's the correct term, but the entry vestibule. So we have that motion. It's been made and seconded. Is there additional discussion regarding that?
If I could just ask a question, because I'll be supportive of this. The fact that we're working in tandem with the Historic Resource Board, Brandon, are we pushing this 2 steps back as opposed to 1?
No, I would say that if the applicant were to come back with the only change being the glass in the vestibule going away, it does not need to go back to the Historic Resources Board because it's obviously less impactful to the front of the building. So I would be comfortable keeping it here at the planning.
It's not, it wouldn't be considered an exterior change, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any more discussion on this? Oh, Rob, you have a hand up?
If I could just say one thing. I don't know if you noticed when you were in the vestibule how filthy it was. I mean, it was filthy. And we removed all the netting, but there was black netting there from the previous owners because of all the birds that go in there. So, you know, that is part of, you know, that's part of the problem. It's not why we did what we did, but that's going to be the result of opening that up, one more result of opening that up. I think there's a lot of historic precedent. So I guess what I would like to be able to do is I do have the research and photographs of all over Europe doing this and how it's initially it's fought and then everybody loves it after they realize how good it is. If I could have that at least as part of my presentation. And like I said to Commissioner Lehman, we do have sound doors inside. We have to have, you can't just do it with this one. And so, you know, the trade-off between, well, letting a little sound out and letting no sound out, you know, I know we don't want to have any sound come out and we don't want to have a truck drive by in the middle of a recording and have to start over. So you know, we really are trying to do our best here. And we have explored the inside and we do have to have sound doors inside also. You know, we're not really talking about the inside now, where it's just a design review, but this was the sort of the, you know, I mean, that's the important side of the street to keep the sound in. And so we're trying to keep the sound in, we're trying to keep the sound out. And it just seems like it will be, I think it'd be a really good solution. So that's where we stand. I don't know what else we can do, you know, honestly.
Well, I think at this point, the commission really feels that this needs to be explored with an interior solution. And that's a big part of our focus as the planning commission is this conservation district. And I think everybody's in agreement that this is a very important building. And particularly in this you know, like I said, it really anchors this particular conservation district. And I think, you know, I know it's always hard to have, you know, go back to drawing board a little bit, but, you know, this is a pretty important project and we're only talking about another month. So I think the commission has a motion to continue this to allow you to explore what we are giving you direction to do. And so having said that, is there any more discussion on this motion?
Mr. Chair, I would offer that since you went back out to the applicant, you just see if there's any other public comments since you effectively opened the public comment again.
Okay, is there anyone from the public that wants to make any additional comments regarding the motion or the application? We didn't have anybody make any comments before. It doesn't seem like anybody has joined us or wants to make any additional comments. So that we've closed the public comments and I'm going to call for roll call on this motion.
Hey, would you read me what the motion is again, please?
All right, the motion is to continue the application to our November Planning Commission meeting with the direction that the applicant will explore providing a design that will have the sound block on the interior of the building as opposed to in the vestibule, the exterior of the vestibule.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Commissioner LePage.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Lehman.
Yes.
Okay. The motion to continue is carried. All right, thank you. Okay, we have one more item on our agenda. I think we'll just, everybody mind if we just charge ahead and finish up, or anybody feel like they need a break? Anybody want to weigh in on that? Consensus says we want to keep going?
We have one or two left.
Or we just have one, I think. Is that right? The last two items were continued.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, good.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We have one more item. It's the bell.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay.
I do just want to note, Mr. Chair, because those last two items were noticed, we just need to open the item. Staff will say it needs to be continued, and then you have to vote on the continuance.
Okay. Yeah. So we have to acknowledge those.
Yeah, they won't take long though.
Okay. Let me get my agenda out here because, like I said, my printer is pretty bad tonight. Okay, so the last item, this is number 10, right? Yeah, okay, so design study and a variance. So it's DS 21-087 and VA 21-214. It's the Bell project. This is consideration of a final design study and variance and associated coastal development permit for the demolition of a 1.261 square foot single family residence and the construction of a 2,250 square foot two-story residence inclusive of an attached garage and an exception to the maximum site coverage regulation located on Mission Street, 3 northeast of 8th Avenue in the R1 and limited commercial RC zoning district. Can we have staff report, please?
Great, thank you, Chair LePage. Can everyone hear me okay and see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Great,
You're
thank
good.
you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mark.
So the Bell residence is before you this evening for final approval, and it includes a variance request to exceed the maximum allowance for site coverage. So the project site is a 5,000 square foot lot. It is located in the residential and limited commercial district. Surrounding uses include hotels to the north and east and the Dance Academy to the south. The site is currently developed with a single family residence, and in accordance with the RC district, it is required to adhere to the R1 zoning standards. So the Planning Commission accepted the concept design at the August 11th meeting with 3 special conditions, and they included limiting the impermeable site coverage to no more than 473 square feet, submitting a landscape plan showing the location of 4 upper canopy trees, and also submitting a drainage plan. The applicant is proposing 369 square feet of impermeable coverage, so less than the maximum allowed. And this includes the front entry stairs, the front porch, retaining walls, as well as the trash and generator enclosure. With respect to the upper canopy trees, I did speak with the city forester and she clarified that the upper canopy trees are not required for this project, so this condition has been omitted. And then lastly, a preliminary drainage plan was submitted for review and conditions of approval have been included in the draft resolution to ensure that the project complies with the drainage requirements before issuance of a building permit. So the existing single-story residence is just over 1,000 square feet. On-site parking is provided in a detached garage that's located at the front property line. The house sits at the top of a sloping lot and requires a long staircase to access the front entry. This staircase would be reconstructed with the redevelopment of the lot. In order to accommodate the stairs, the applicant is requesting a variance to exceed maximum allowed site coverage by 132 square feet. So just a really quick breakdown, 673 square feet is allowed. Of that, 473 can be impermeable. Right now, the site has just under 700 square feet of existing site coverage that would be removed, and the applicant is proposing a total of 805 square feet. However, only 369 square feet would be impermeable. So the variance, in order to approve it, the Planning Commission must make 6 specific findings. Staff believes that all findings can be made in the affirmative and supports approval of the variance. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but the overarching theme, really, the justification for the variance is that it is based on the site constraints that are unique to this property. And these constraints include the steep slope at the front of the property, as well as the dense grove of oak trees. These 2 conditions really limit the area of the site that can be developed. And this does require that long staircase to provide reasonable access to the front door. So with respect to the granting of special privileges, staff finds that allowing an additional 132 square feet of site coverage to compensate for the front entry stairs is not a granting of special privilege, but it rather facilitates reasonable access to the residents. Also, allowing the additional site coverage would not be detrimental to adjacent properties. So the project is required to retain all storm water on site and will install a drainage system that will accomplish this. So the additional 132 square feet of site coverage would not be injurious to the public or to adjacent properties. The conditions applicable to this property are unique, as previously mentioned, and approving the exception for the reasons stated in the application is not likely to be recurrent in nature. Again, the site conditions are due to natural topography and environmental conditions. These are not the result of the actions of the owners. And also worth noting, the project does provide a rare tree canopy in the commercial district. And while it creates a constraint for the project, it is an asset to the district as a whole. Lastly, with regards to the variance findings, the granting of the variance would not be in conflict with the general plan. Single-family residences are permitted in the RC district, but they are subject to the R1 development standards, and those restrict site coverage to 10% of the lot. Impermeable site coverage is proposed at less than what is permitted, and the applicant has prioritized permeability of the hardscape. So as this is also final details review, the exterior colors and materials are being presented. These are the same finishes and colors that were provided at the concept hearing, so none of these have changed. Again, the residence is finished with a combination of stucco and stone. The roof would be a clay barrel tile. Windows and doors would be a painted aluminum clad wood, and there would be wood detailing throughout the structure. So with that, staff's recommendation is that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving the final design study, variance, and associated coastal development permit. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions from the commission? Here's for staff. Looks like nobody has any questions at this time. Thank you, Marnie.
Thank you.
Okay, with the applicant or the applicant's architect, I see June is here, June Solano. I assume you're going to make the presentation, June?
Yes, good evening, Chair LePage, commissioners, planning staff. First of all, thank you, Marnie, for getting us through all these hurdles, from Planning Commission initial study to the Forest and Beach Commission. As you said, as Marnie mentioned, this is a challenging site. There's the constraints are real. You have your topography issue. You have your oak grove, and it also need to make sure that for the bells, it's something that they can live with. It's something livable for them. So anyway, I just like to mention that, but I am here to answer any questions you might have, and we do concur with the approval conditions as well. Thank you.
Are there questions for June from the commissioners? No questions by anybody at this time?
No, not for me.
Okay. Thank you, June. Did the Bells want to address the Planning Commission?
You're on mute, Catherine.
Just need, Catherine. Yeah, you need to unmute. Hit your unmute button there.
You're still on mute. There you go.
There you go.
There are 32 oak trees on the property. I think people need to know the reason we're trying to do this. 32 oaks, and we like trees, but 32 is a fire danger and all kinds of problems. So, and we really do need an elevator, and June has come up with a wonderful way to get the elevator in through the garage and then going up into the residence.
And then if I could just add a word, that we've had a very good experience because of the support of Marnie and you commissioners and June, obviously, helping us all the way. So just want to thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members of the public that would like to make comments regarding this application? I don't see or hear anybody. So I'm going to close the public comments and open it up to the commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Dells, would you like to begin?
I have very few comments other than I'm ready to approve this project. I think it's a very challenging lot, and I think the variances requested should be allowed. I think Marnie did an excellent job of laying out the 6 findings, and I agree with her analysis as written in that presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Dells. Commissioner Bolton.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't love variances for either coverage or additional square footage in general, but this is a very clear example of why we allow variances for these kind of things. So I support the project.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Commissioner Lehman.
Yeah. Well, I think the Dells have been very patient throughout this meeting. I don't think you thought it would take this long. So, but I'm, congratulations to Marnie and June, that the elevator's masterful. It's great. And I love the materials. I think they're wonderful. You know, the stone and setting the garage down into the street and making it itself a really a lovely building on its own. And then seeing the building at the top. And I know we had talked about this building a long time ago, Jim and Catherine, and I'm glad you're finally going to get it. So I'm all for it.
Thank you, Commissioner Lehman. Commissioner Locke, your comments.
I don't have much to add. Mr. and Mrs. Bell, I think that, yeah, the elevator is definitely going to be helpful, and it's a challenging lot and a beautiful project. Nice job, June. So, and Catherine, I'm sorry. It was a great presentation, so thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Locke. Yeah, this is a really challenging site, and I think June has done a great job of solving the problem. So and the findings, I think, can easily be made for the variance, which staff has done a great job of. So we have a resolution as per staff to approve the project. Special conditions, there's a few: site coverage, not to exceed. Am I got the right one?
This one about the canopy trees, upper canopy.
Yeah, I got the right one here. Okay, so this 26 is the site coverage maximum impermeable shall not exceed 473. 27 is replacement of the Pedestrian plant prior to issuance of building permit. 28, final irrigation plan. 29 is the public right-of-way in accordance with the standards, typical. And 30 is the driveway sunset pavers. So I didn't hear any additional special conditions discussed. So do we have a motion to accept the resolution as presented by staff?
I'm happy to make a go right
Go
ahead.
Go for it, Dale. Go for it.
I move for approval for the final design study of DS 21-087 with the variance VA 21-214 and associated coastal development permit for the demolition of a 1,261 square foot single-story residence and construction of a 2,250 square foot two-story residence and an exception to maximum site coverage regulations located on Mission Street, 3 northeast of 8th Avenue.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion.
Along with the conditions 1 through 4 and the findings 1 through 4 and the findings A through F for the special variance, for the variance approvals.
Okay, your motion is to accept the resolution as presented by staff.
Yes, absolutely.
And with no changes. Okay, and your second is in agreement with that, Commissioner Delps?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the resolution for this project as presented by staff with no changes from the commission. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, hearing none, can we have roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Absolutely.
Chair LePage.
Yes.
Thank you.
The resolution passes. Thank you, everyone. And it's been a long journey for the Bells. I hope you get this house completed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of items left to at least mention on the public hearings tonight. The first is a design study. This is DS 21-024, the Jenkins project. It was a consideration of a combined concept and final design study, associated development permit for a remodel of a single-family dwelling, including 914 cubic yards of grading located on Scenic Road 6 southeast of Ocean Avenue. And this has been continued. And
So Mr. Chair, yeah, what we would like to see is, because these were noticed, the procedure dictates that you essentially open the meeting, take public comment on the continuance, if there's any, bring it back to the commission, and then request a motion on the continuance.
okay, all right, we have to vote on that. I thought it was just, okay, so we have to vote on it. Okay, so we're gonna forego the staff report.
Yeah, staff has no report other than the fact that the request has been
Continued is their report, and the applicant is not here to make any presentation because it's continued. So I will open it up to the public for any comments they may have. Is there anyone here from the public that wants to make any comments regarding the continuation or the project also, or is it just a continuation issue?
We're just taking up the continuation, so the public comments would be on the
Okay, so any comments from the public regarding this application's continuation? I don't see or hear any. So to expedite things, the chair will make a motion to continue this project.
Second.
Okay, do we have any additional discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes, the motion is carried. Project is continued. Okay, the next item on public hearings is a use permit. This is UP 21-149, Carmel Boutique. This is consideration of a use permit for the establishment of a cosmetic store located on Ocean Avenue, 2 northeast of Dolores in the Central Commercial Zoning District. There's no staff report. Opened up to the public for any comment regarding the continuation. Hearing none, I will close the public comments. The chair will once again make a motion to continue this item.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bolton. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delps,
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes. The motion to continue is carried. And that does conclude the public hearings this evening. We have the director's report. Maybe you want to speak about the night sky policies you were talking about earlier.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I will plan on bringing back a report to the commission in the next month or two to talk about what night sky is. It's an actual designation that a city can get, or jurisdiction, or an area of a jurisdiction. You get certified as a night sky. It's on a list. You have a designated set of regulations that keep you in that. We would be able to possibly put the under Title 15, like I said, because that's where our lighting regulations exist, so it wouldn't require an LCP amendment. I would just look for sort of like a heads up and down from at least 3 of the commissioners that that's something you'd like me to bring back to you in the next month or so. There's 1 thumb up, head up and down, 2 thumbs up, hand up in the air. So you guys are all over the board, but I'm taking that all as yeses. You guys all chose your different methods. Yes, but
You got 3,
okay.
you got 3 thumbs up.
I'm good at speaking planning commission, so I understand what you guys all said.
Right.
Okay, so I will come back with that in the next month or two. Thank you for that suggestion. I think it's a good one that Commissioner Lehman brought up. So as far as my update goes, just real quickly, again, nice job tonight by the commission getting through a large agenda in a timely amount of time. I feel like we're continually streamlining our process using our consent agenda. So kudos to you all. Another good agenda tonight. Our new hire, I'm excited to announce, has accepted. It's all official. Every background check is done. So his name is Saray Nathan. Nathan is his last name. Saray is his first name. He'll be joining us on October 25th. So just about 2 weeks. So we're very excited to welcome him on board. I will have him join us at the next planning commission, introduce him to you in person. He's joining us from Southern California, so he understands California planning. He worked for the city of LA for a short bit of time as well, so he understands high volume planning. So we're very excited to get him on board. I think you're really going to like him. He most recently is working as part of an HOA, more on the land use and customer service side. So he has a customer service background with respect to land use. So he's going to understand the high touch community that we have here. It's a very high-end HOA. I think I remember him telling me the monthly fees are between $1,500 and $2,000. So it's a very high-end HOA. So he's got a lot of high-touch customers where he works as well. So we're excited about that. To let you know, Verizon appeal has been received. That will be on the November 2nd City Council meeting. I just wanted to share that with you all. Last week, the Carmel Resort Inn, which has an application, actually they don't have an application yet, they've gone to our Forest and Beach Commission, but up on Carpenter, Carmel Resort Inn had a community meeting. It was something they set up, it wasn't through the city at all. It was down at La Playa to go through early design concepts with the folks that live closest to the property. They walked around the neighborhood and handed out flyers. And then a couple of days before, they did put it out in the Pine Cone. So there's a good turnout, though. I'd say there's probably 30 or so people that are still even with that. They are planning on doing another community meeting here in the next month or so. The applicant has made me aware. That'll be broadcast more broadly earlier on. It'll be in a larger room as well. So they're looking for feedback early on in their design from the public. I think they're doing what they should be in Carmel-by-the-Sea with a large-scale development. So it's good to see that. I will keep the Planning Commission apprised of that. And of course, we'll use every tool we have at the city, constant contact, Friday letter, once we find out when that meeting is happening so the public can be involved in that. Following up on some business the Planning Commission did, the sign ordinance had its first reading at the City Council this month, and it passed no changes. So we'll be coming back for the second and final reading on the 2nd of November. It still has to go to the Coastal Commission to be certified, and it'll be effective immediately after that. It'll be obviously a small LCP amendment package. I've already given the Coastal Commission staff a heads up, so it'll just take another month or two to be effective, but that's good news. No changes from the first reading at the City Council. A bit of exciting news, we got our third and final grant awarded. Kudos to Marnie Waffle, who played a huge role in getting us grants for forwarding the effort to increase housing in the village. So this most recent one that we got was the state version of this grant called LEAP, L-E-A-P. It was another $65,000. So that brings our total grant award for 3 grants to $290,000. For starting off, we're going to do a feasibility study to explore the barriers to affordable housing here. And this all ties in with the RHNA, the Regional Housing Needs Assessment that gets imposed every 6 years to have to build new housing, affordable housing in every jurisdiction. It's a state-imposed mandate. So this grant work will help us continue to stay in compliance. Even though we may not find a lot of opportunities to build affordable housing, you still have to do the work to see where it's possible. So this study, we're going to go out for an RFP in the next month or so to get someone on board to help us with a feasibility study here in Carmel-by-the-Sea. So that's very exciting. And again, kudos to Marnie. She did the lion's share of the work on getting those grants in the House. Lastly, I just want to share last City Council, we had our contract awarded. If you recall, a few months ago, a budget item that I put on was for scanning and digitizing all of our physical historic property files here in City Hall. The concept is, as we scan and digitize all these files, that each one exists for every single parcel in the city. As they get digitized, they go magically onto our GIS map on the website. And if you want to look at your property files at 11 o'clock at night with a bowl of chocolate ice cream in your pajamas, you just click on it and you can see all your property files. So I'm excited. It took a little bit of time because we had to get the budget approved, then we had to go out for an RFP, we had to negotiate the contract, and I just got that contract approved by a City Council this month. So I'm hopeful that we're going to be starting on that project in the next few weeks. So as files get uploaded, they will be there real time. We don't have to wait for the full 1.5 or 2 years of the project until they get on the GIS map. It'll be real time as they go through. We're going to be doing batches of 24 bankers boxes every couple months. So it's going to take some time, but we're going to start realizing that project pretty quickly once we get started. And I'm very excited about that. For some people, it's not the sexiest project in the world, but for me, I'm really excited about having files up online. I think it's going to help a lot of people, both in the industry and the residents. I think it's really going to be a benefit for everyone. Plus, it's going to save all this paper from being in City Hall and will free up some space, actually, which would be nice. And that's all I have. I know there was a lot, but thank you all again for your work tonight. It was an excellent planning commission. Certainly able to answer any questions. I saw Commissioner Lehman had her hand up.
Just 2 quick questions. Is there any way to encourage Carmel Sands to put that meeting online? On Zoom?
Carmel Resort Inn?
Carmel Resort Inn on Zoom, to Zoom that meeting.
Sure, I can make that request to them. Like I said, it's not a city sanctioned meeting in any way. We have zero part in it. Right. But yeah, I gotta say, they've been really forthright and wanting to reach out to the community. So I imagine if they're able to pull that off from a technology perspective, they'd be happy to do it. I can't say yes for them, but I will absolutely encourage that.
Yeah, and congratulations on the new planner. And one other question, I thought there was a budget item for an additional planner, not just the replacement for Catherine.
Thank you for remembering that. That's very true. We got an associate planner approved as well, which will be our, some people call it long-range planning, some people call it advanced planning, but it's those true planning initiatives. Think, downtown master plans, paid parking, things like that. So all these big projects that take a lot of time, even managing, some of this grant work like affordable housing or updating historic context statements. Those are really what we call long range planning or advanced planning tasks in the planning world, not processing projects, which is also important. Right. But typically it's difficult to do both of those things well because it's a different track, it's a different timing. And so, yeah, we did get that position approved. Our HR team, I think, has, I want to say, a dozen or more open positions right now that they're working on recruitments for. So we're just in line. you know, the next one up for us is going to be our building inspector to backfill from Jermel getting promoted to building official, which will help us with capacity for reviewing building permits, which will make everyone happy as well. But we did have a strategic retreat this week with the city council, and we heard loud and clear that they want us to prioritize getting positions filled. So the city team is going to be looking at how we can expedite that process.
Great.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah, I'm excited about getting that position in too.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. It was a great meeting. Appreciate all your comments, and we are adjourned. I'll see you. Our next meeting is November 10th.
All right.
Night.